Chapter 10:30. No matter how strong and powerful the armored monster was, it was now a piece of meat on the chopping board. Su Fong could deal with it however he wanted. After flying out of the cauldron of void dust, he waited for a while. Then, three figures flew out from the depths of the Star of Fog ruins. Dai Yi led Lady Yellow Moon and the Black Python King over. Their speed was much faster than Su Fong's, and even the Feather Fan couldn't keep up. After meeting with Su Fong, it wasn't hard to tell that Dai Yi had obtained the Heaven and Earth elemental bead. It was a peerless treasure. Moreover, Lady Yellow Moon and the Black Python King had probably obtained many benefits as well. He still wanted to see the Heaven and Earth elemental bead. How could Dai Yi let him admire it? The few of them rested in the mountains. Su Fong didn't know what Dai Yi was planning to do next. However, he still wanted to find the location of the ancient Devil Golden Core. He bid farewell to Dai Yi and said that he was going to return to the constellation of Nine Heavens. Dai Yi agreed and gave Su Fong many high-grade elixirs, tens of millions of middle-grade immortal elixirs, and some spiritual items. It seemed like she hadn't been able to obtain any treasures in the past few years. After obtaining the benefits, Su Fong left. He secretly gathered the power of the ancient Devil Golden Core and used the life-shrinking technique. He flew at a low altitude in the vast wasteland and sensed the surroundings. As time passed, Su Fong gradually got used to the shackles of the barren land. Using the heavenly secret life-shrinking technique together with his full circle ability, he could sense if there was any ancient demon golden core aura within 10 miles of the barren land. Even Huang Fu Fei would not be able to sense such a large area. The life-shrinking technique didn't sense nature. Instead, it sensed the aura of fate and some energy that was connected to fate. After obtaining and merging with the ancient Devil Golden Core, Su Fong's fate was connected to that of the ancient Devil Golden Core's owner. Unknowingly, the two had already merged. Su Fong passed through many dangerous areas and gradually entered the depths of the Huang Zhe astral plane. However, they did not gain anything along the way. Instead, they sensed many forces coming from all directions, as well as a large number of cultivators. There were also some powerful big goblin and even some disciples from the constellation of Nine Heavens. They also passed by the Phoenix Transformation Canyon. Currently, there was an endless stream of cultivators entering the Phoenix Transformation Canyon to fight for treasures. This was because from time to time, there would be some huge tremors within the canyon. No one knew if it was the birth of a magic treasure, but every cultivator dreamed of obtaining an extraordinary magic treasure. Magic treasures were a cultivator's second life. Buzz. They had been flying around the wasteland day and night, trying to sense their surroundings. It had been more than half a year. Suddenly, in the depths of a forested mountain range, the Heaven's secret life-shrinking technique actually sensed an aura. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised. He thought it was an ancient demon golden core, but he was disappointed. It was a demonic aura that was similar to the demonic aura in his body. Finally, he realized that the Ba-Mo monarch's power was fused into his body, and it was resonating with the heavenly secret life-shrinking technique. It seemed that the demonic aura belonged to the Ba-Mo monarch. It couldn't be the Ba-Mo monarch because there was only a trace of demonic aura. If it really was the Ba-Mo monarch himself, then the resonance should be very intense. After sensing for a while, the demonic aura moved forward. It was moving a bit faster than Su Fong, but it wasn't too shocking. In any case, he was aimlessly searching for the remains of an ancient demon golden core devil. He followed the demonic aura and continued to sense everything within a few dozen miles. Not long after, the demonic aura also continued to fly forward. When Su Fong looked into the depths of the canyon, he discovered that it was a rather famous dangerous area in the Huang Zhe astral plane. Floating Soul Valley. This dangerous area was similar to the Seven-Star Mountain Range. It wasn't the biggest dangerous area in the Huang Zhe astral plane, but it was still recorded on the map. Just as he was looking at the map of Floating Soul Valley, Su Fong suddenly sensed a very strong demonic chi. It was very familiar. He approached it and sensed it. This time, he was sure that the one in Floating Soul Valley was definitely that big shot from Heavenly Demon Mountain, Savraba Mo. This demonic aura was too strong and domineering. He was so far away from Floating Soul Valley, but he could sense it so strongly. It was obvious that only the Ba-Mo monarch himself could release such a shocking aura. Su Fang's breathing slowed down. The other party was the Ba-Mo monarch, and he had even swallowed the Ba-Mo monarch's left palm. The demonic mountain's nest isn't here. From the records, this Floating Soul Valley is just a collapsed, dangerous area formed after the earth moved. Because of the collapse, many spaces inside turned into valleys. In addition, because of dust and star fog all year round, the place doesn't see sunlight all year round. However, there are relics and natural spiritual treasures inside. After thinking about it, he didn't dare to enter Floating Soul Valley. He could only pass by the outer area. Even in the outer area, he could sense a lot of demonic aura with his heavenly secret life shrinking technique. It was very familiar because these demonic cultivators were from the demonic mountain. Since Su Fang had swallowed the Ba-Mo monarch's flesh and blood, he also had the power of the demonic mountain. Cough, cough. When he was about to cross the demonic mountain, he suddenly sensed 3 demonic cultivators in front of him. They were hiding in a forest not far away. They were obviously the eyes of the demonic mountain. At this moment, the Great Perfection heard the 3 of them talking. The Huiyin Shinrikyo is really difficult to deal with. Our monarch didn't even settle the score with them, but they kept biting us, saying that our monarch stole the heavenly light, exceptional fire. Should stop talking. Since we followed the 2 monarchs to Floating Soul Valley, we're here to find the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics. Yes, stop nagging about the past. We followed the 2 monarchs here mainly to find the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics. We've already found several dangerous areas. I don't know how long we'll have to stay in Floating Soul Valley. If we can really find the relics, we can return to the demonic mountain. The 3 of them spoke one after another. Even though they were separated by several miles, the Great Perfection Stage's hearing could still be heard clearly. Su Fang stopped at a mountain peak and frowned as he looked at the Floating Soul Valley on his right. 2 monarchs from the demonic mountain came to find the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics in Floating Soul Valley. Could there really be something special in Floating Soul Valley? If there really is the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics, then I can't miss it. He pounded his fists. He actually transformed into a demon, and his demonic aura was mainly the demonic mountain's true chi. In this way, if his aura was really sensed by a peerless powerhouse in Floating Soul Valley, they would only think that he was a disciple of the demonic mountain. Then entered the star fog. An hour later, he entered the Floating Soul Valley. This was also a mountain range and forest, but most of the mountains had collapsed and were buried together with the forest. There were many empty ruins inside, which turned into valleys. From these valleys, star fog would sweep out from time to time. The air was almost humid, and when it covered the skin, it would make it difficult to wash off. It would also clog the skin and prevent the physical body from absorbing true chi. This was the terrifying part of wastelands. Just this humid air alone was enough to prevent cave immortals from stepping into this place. Only heaven immortal experts could dissolve this humid air. Su Fang released his sensing ability and sensed demonic aura, and the aura of a few righteous cultivators. This was only the periphery of Floating Soul Valley. He didn't know what auras were inside. Floating Soul Valley was at least tens of thousands of miles wide. In addition to the special environment, Su Fang's sensing ability could only sense auras within a few miles. This was a dangerous place that contained many spiritual treasures and relics, so there must be many cultivators searching for treasures here. His goal was the demonic mountain. He flew into a valley formed by the accumulation of ruins and forests. It looked like ruins, but there were many mouth-like valleys and caves in the center. After entering the valleys, demonic mountain's experts should be not far ahead. There were also more demonic mountain disciples lurking in the dark. Fortunately, this was a wasteland, so they couldn't completely control it. Su Fang gradually sensed the extremely clear and strong aura of monarch Ba Mo. Through the combination of his perfected ability, he could sense that it was in an inner forest cave in the depths of the ruins. It was only about 2.5 miles away. In addition, there were almost all inner caves and valleys in all directions. Even if it was only 2.5 miles away, a big shot like Monarch Ba Mo couldn't perfectly control it. Su Fong didn't dare to enter again. Fortunately, he summoned the Wuling Goblin and entered the Wuling Goblin's body, allowing it to slowly move forward in the ruins. Finally, he could reach 2 miles away from the ruins. This time, he could easily sense more than 300 demonic mountain experts strolling around. More than 50 of them were gathered near a cave. There were 2 terrifying auras in that cave. Su Fong was sure that one of them was Monarch Ba Mo. The other aura was as strong as Monarch Ba Mo. It seemed that there was another monarch of Demonic Mountain. 2 demons had come down from Demonic Mountain. They were determined to find the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics. At this moment, Su Fong had the Wuling Goblin crawl into the ruins and hide its aura. Su Fong only used his hearing ability to see what the 2 monarchs had gained from this floating soul valley. With his perfected ability, Su Fong could reap without sowing. After waiting for half a day, Su Fong heard the discussions of other demonic experts and learned that the monarch who came with Monarch Ba Mo was Monarch Sai Shui of Demonic Mountain. Monarch Sai Shui was one of the monarchs of Demonic Mountain. He controlled tens of thousands of disciples on Demonic Mountain and was a peerless big shot at the elder level. With Monarch Ba Mo and Monarch Sai Shui, Demonic Mountain was too terrifying. Suddenly, Monarch Sai Shui, who was cultivating next to Monarch Ba Mo, spoke. Her voice was as hoarse as an old woman's. The disciples in front went to those suspicious places to search. 2 of them might have the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics. Our Demonic Mountain had only accidentally obtained a broken jade related to the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor in the past. Compared to Huyen Shinrikyo and the constellation of the 9 heavens, we don't have much of an advantage. We can only search for them one by one. This floating soul valley was also rumored to have been obtained by someone who obtained a magic treasure related to the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Although many forces came to search for it first, we still found something when we worked together to activate the Blood Jade. The Yellow Springs Devil Emperor once created the Yellow Springs immortal world and looked down on the righteous, demonic, and evil Tao. He established the Yellow Springs reincarnation. He was such a powerful, ancient, immortal emperor. If our Demonic Mountain can obtain his legacy, we can kill our way into one of the great worlds and establish a huge demonic force. Haha! If we can really obtain the immortal emperor's legacy, we will have the strength of a supreme ruler of the great immortal world. After Monarch Ba Mo and Monarch Sai Shui spoke, everything suddenly stopped. Then, the 2 of them suddenly brought more than 20 experts with them and hid their auras. Each of the experts had the strength of Qi Yin Zi and Huangfu, Xiao Xiao, and some are even stronger. They followed the 2 great demon monarchs and entered the depths of Floating Soul Valley. There are 2 dangerous places that might have the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's relics. I have to take a look. If there really are relics, it will definitely shake the great world. Su Fong immediately ordered Wuling Goblin to run quickly along the surface of the ruins. Although Wuling Goblin couldn't compare to Zhu Huang, it was still a demonic immortal. In addition, its Earth-type ability was its advantage, so it quickly caught up with the Demonic Mountain experts. Chapter 10:31. His speed wasn't as fast as the 2 demon monarchs, but fortunately, Su Fong had the great perfection ability and could sense Demonic Mountain's true qi, so he wasn't afraid that he couldn't keep up. A day later, he suddenly came to a 100-feet-deep pit in the ruins. In the depths of the pit, there was an even deeper abyss. There was even some interstellar airflow that swept out from time to time. It seemed that there was a power that didn't belong to the wasteland at the bottom of Floating Soul Valley. In other words, there might be a spatial imbalance that caused some kind of change in space, causing other spatial powers to explode from here. It was too dangerous. Demonic Mountain's Monarch Ba Mo and Blood Monarch Sai led experts into the depths of the abyss that looked like a tomb buried in ruins. Waves of cold air either directly shot out, twisted, or whirlpools appeared from the depths of the ruins. Even heaven immortals would be sucked into the abyss if they encountered the cold air. As expected of peerless experts, Su Fong used the Wuling Goblin to crawl on the cliffs and secretly followed them. He saw those demonic mountain experts avoid the cold air in the abyss. Not only did they fly into the abyss, but they also entered the abyss caves that were torn open on the cliff. The cold air turbulence wasn't much of a threat to them. These people probably walked in the wasteland all year round and were already used to this kind of environment. The Wuling Goblin was a natural monster. It could survive in places with rocks and soil. It was also an expert at hiding its aura perfectly. Su Fong hid under its weight and also felt the terrible threat from the abyss. If he fell into the abyss, he would either fall to his death, be swept away by the spatial turbulence, or be killed directly. The experts of Demonic Mountain moved slower and slower. In the end, they were almost walking. They avoided the spatial turbulence in the abyss and searched for the legendary ruins of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Su Fong also released his great perfection ability to sense the gloomy space around him. He wanted to see if he could find the ruins of the ancient demon's golden core he was looking for. Unfortunately, all aspects of his perception were shackled here. He could only sense about 1 mile away, but this was still very shocking. He estimated that he was almost as good as Monarch Ba Mo and Blood Monarch Sai. As he slowly searched deeper, the cold air wrapped in the spatial turbulence became more and more shocking. It was like boiling steam from time to time, making Su Fong's hair stand on end. The experts of Demonic Mountain thoroughly searched every cave and every crack that was torn open. When they went deeper, they actually found another cave. It was a very ancient cave. It looked like a huge rock that was stuck in an astonishing canyon. It could fall into the spatial turbulence at any time. Having abode, Su Fong used his great perfection ability and saw Sovereign Ba Mo, who had lost his left hand and had his left arm wrapped in a black cloth, and a black-robed old man leading several experts flying into the cave that was about to crumble. With his great perfection stage ability, he was able to see the surroundings of the cave abode. Most likely, it had been drawn here by the turbulence from a certain space. It was embedded in the canyon in an irregular state. The cave abode had been turned into cold stone. There were no formations or markings. In less than half an incense stick's time, the two demon monarchs left with their experts. Judging from their expressions, they should not have noticed anything. They continued to search deeper. Su Fong also entered the ancient immortal's cave to take a look. There were no treasures. He guessed that someone had been here a long time ago. Even if there were treasures, they would have been taken away by the cultivators who came first. However, Su Fong could sense a faint remnant devil aura from the rocks in the cave abode. It seemed that this ancient cave abode was indeed left behind by a Devil Dao expert. He continued to follow the Demonic Mountain experts to search the dangerous abyss of ruins. If it weren't for the Wuling Goblin's innate ability to survive in nature, Su Fong wouldn't have been able to persevere here by himself. His true chi would have been exhausted long ago. He continued to search and passed through a large number of canyons and abysses, but he still couldn't reach the surface. Su Fong secretly followed the Demonic Mountain experts like this. He suddenly felt a strange aura and also noticed that the Demonic Mountain experts were slowing down. As he got closer, he suddenly sensed demonic aura seeping through the remnant spatial turbulence in front of him. From the demonic aura, it seemed that there was a big goblin ahead. It was definitely a big goblin. To be able to cultivate and survive in this kind of spatial abyss, it had to be a big goblin at least on the level of King Black Python. Oh, Sovereign Ba Mo and Sovereign Sai Shue should have sensed a powerful big goblin, but they still flew deeper into the abyss. Did they discover something? He thought that the Demonic Mountain experts would take a detour, but he was wrong. He slowly followed them. When he came to a three-sided canyon, he suddenly sensed a demonic aura and a demonic aura in one of the dark canyons. The demonic aura and demonic aura were intertwined, but most of it was demonic aura. The demonic aura was less than 1%. Even this little bit couldn't escape the Sovereign Ba Mo and Sovereign Sai Shue's senses. Could it really be the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's ruins? Although the demonic aura is scarce, it's still quite strong. It's much stronger than the previous ancient cave abode. His heart tightened. He couldn't wait any longer and still let the wooling goblin slowly move along the cliff. He didn't want to make any noise at this time. I beg for mercy. I beg for mercy. At such a critical moment, a voice suddenly appeared in his body. It was the armored monster's pathetic begging for mercy. Su Fong immediately beamed with joy. He peeled off a young immortal and came to the void dust cauldron. Inside the void dust cauldron, a lot of blood mist floated around the ghouls and armored monsters. He pinched the tip of his nose. He wasn't used to the smell of the big goblin's blood. Su Fong's gaze sharpened. The badly mutilated armored monster trembled. Its eyes no longer had the arrogance from before. They were only trembling uneasily and full of fear. The ghoul didn't care about his feelings. It grabbed another piece of flesh from the armored monster's lower abdomen and slowly ate it. Aside from its face, the armored monster's entire body was in tatters. It was estimated that 1/5 of its flesh had been eaten by the ghoul. Bones and even intestines could be seen in some places. Su Fong asked indifferently, "Listen to my orders obediently in the future." The armored monster seemed to be grasping at straws. "You are my master. I thought you were my lord and would never betray me. Come back." With a thought, the ghoul disappeared. Su Fong condensed a large number of seals. With the power of yin and yang as the source, he created layers of complicated seals. The moment the armored monster released the young immortal, all kinds of seals were added to the young immortal and its body. The armored monster was very powerful. It might be able to repel Su Fong's sealing power, but it was ultimately unable to shake the power of the primordial chaos sacred. After a while, Su Fong used the power of the cauldron transformation to burn away the seals on the armored monster that Dai Yi had placed. The moment the armored monster regained its freedom, it staggered and almost fainted. It sat cross-legged on the array, feeling very weak. Su Fong took out dozens of mid-grade and high-grade immortal essence pills and gave them to it. Recover well. Other than these high-grade immortal essence pills, there are also a large number of yin-yang immortal sky pills that I refined. Although they're low-grade pills, they are enough for you to slowly recover. I, Tung Ba, will be loyal to Master in the future. Please help me purify the blood poison in my body. The armored monster suddenly knelt in front of Su Fong. This is not a problem. I will secretly activate the cauldron transformation. With the help of the yin-yang immortal sky pills, you can use the power of the cauldron transformation to slowly purify the blood poison. After that, Su Fong's yang immortal broke through the air and left. The armored monster, Tung Ba, was very powerful after fusing with its main body. Although it was seriously injured now, once it recovered, it and the ghoul would become his trump card in addition to his Dharma treasures. At this moment, the wooling goblin followed the demonic mountain experts and entered the depths of the canyon that was full of demonic chi and tiger roars. There were also some spatial turbulences in the depths of the abyss. There was more demonic chi than the turbulence, and there was also some faint demonic chi. There are more than 10 demons. They seem to be very powerful existences, but they encountered the demonic mountain. Su Fong's perfected ability allowed him to sense the locations where the demonic chi was released. Bang, bang, bang. Unexpectedly, in an instant, there was an explosion in the depths of the canyon, like spring thunder. Then, along with the sound of the explosion, flames suddenly flickered in the depths of the dark canyon. Clearly, Monarch Ba, Mo, and Monarch Sai Shui led the demonic mountain experts to attack the big goblin. What a domineering demonic mountain. They actually attacked the big goblin's nest in the big goblin's territory. The wooling goblin crawled along the cliff, and waves of explosive aura began to blow past like a gust of wind. Fortunately, the wooling goblin's body could be flattened, so it could still move forward slowly. Following a furious roar, several great demons suddenly appeared from the depths of the explosion. Some were huge scorpions, some were huge snakes, and they were currently fighting with the demonic mountain's experts in an enormous cave on the cliff of an abyss. Their battle formation could completely be described as shocking to the heavens and earth. Su Fong could see that the big goblin's strength was about the same as Goddess Yellow Moon's. Inside the cave, there are two waves of demonic aura entangled with one wave of demonic aura. It's Monarch Ba Mo and Monarch Sai Shui fighting a big goblin together. What kind of big goblin is so powerful? Su Fong still let the Wuling goblin continue moving forward despite the dangerous abyss. From the layers of turbulent and boiling destructive aura, Su Fong saw through them and entered the cave on the cliff. That huge cave shouldn't have been created by the big goblin because it contained a shocking amount of demonic aura. Around the cave were a dozen big goblins fighting with more than 20 demonic mountain experts. Su Fong saw some of the demonic techniques that had transformed the demonic book from the demonic techniques that these demonic mountain experts used. He saw that inside the cave, two balls of demonic flames were constantly clashing with a ball of demonic light. At first, the demonic light was still very strong, but it was gradually suppressed by the two waves of demonic aura. Su Fong also saw that inside the demonic light was a powerful giant ape. A giant ape. Su Fong hadn't seen it for a long time. It was an existence similar to the heavenly demon Venerable. They were both ape monsters, but the ape race was far more powerful than the average big goblin. The heavenly demon Venerable was a good example. It could even cultivate magical powers like humans. Looking again, the giant ape had blood-red hair and was somewhat similar to the heavenly demon Venerable. This giant ape also had a pair of foot-long fangs that were very sharp. It was more than 10 feet tall, and its pair of huge arms were constantly stretching out. It was even fighting with the Dharma treasure Xiangwang that Monarch Ba Mo and Monarch Sai Shui had used. What a powerful giant ape! Su Fong immediately used his magical power, allowing Tung Ba, who was in the Crucible Transformation realm, to see everything in the cave through his great perfection ability. Tung Ba was still recovering. When he saw Su Fong's magical power, he was shocked to see such a complicated abyss in the distance. He suddenly shook his head. "Master, I have never seen that giant ape before. There are many big goblin of the ape race in the desolate swamp astral boundary. They are generally more powerful than most big goblins. They are the kings of their own territories. This subordinate has always liked to work alone, so I didn't provoke these ape race big goblins." At the same time, Tung Ba also said that he had never been to the depths of the Floating Soul Valley. He didn't know what was down there. He usually only hunted humans on the surface of the Floating Soul Valley. Su Fong actually wanted to suppress the giant ape, but after thinking about it, he decided against it. The giant ape was stronger than Tung Ba. Although it couldn't be compared to Dai Yi, it was still as powerful as the Black Python King. He couldn't afford to offend this big goblin. Chapter 1032. Not only could they not afford to offend it, but they also couldn't have any ideas about it. However, the giant ape was very powerful. It fought with Sovereign Ba Mo and Sovereign Sai. The more powerful it was, the more likely it was stronger than the Black Python King and was close to Dai Yi. Unfortunately, the giant ape was surrounded and suppressed by two peerless experts of the demonic Tao. During this process, Su Fong truly witnessed the strength of the great world's powerhouses. Sovereign Ba Mo had lost his left hand, but he was still very powerful. With a casual palm strike, the demonic aura could shatter a large area of rocks. With a spurt of demonic poison, it could burn the giant ape's divine ability until it couldn't use it. As for Sovereign Sai, he was just as powerful, or even more so. After all, he wasn't injured. With the burning demonic aura under his feet, he almost displayed the power of his domain, shackling the giant ape and preventing it from escaping the cave. The giant ape was in trouble. Not only was it injured, but it also couldn't escape the cave. The big goblin outside seemed to have sensed that something was wrong. Soon, one of them escaped, followed by another. Overall, the demonic mountain's fame shook the great world. As a great force, they could also suppress such a big goblin in the wasteland. PFFF. In less than 2 hours, a strange sound came from the cave. This king would rather die than fall into the hands of the demonic Tao and be refined into a puppet. After releasing his great perfection ability, Su Fong saw that the giant ape was hit in the head by a demonic blade. It was a demonic weapon used by Sovereign Sai. The giant ape couldn't move, but it suddenly slapped its own chest. He had actually shattered his own heart. In the end, such a powerful monster had committed suicide under the joint attack of Sovereign Ba Mo and Sovereign Sai Shui. It died in such a miserable way. After the internal battle ended, the big goblin outside didn't dare to delay and fled. Su Fong looked inside the cave again. The two demonic Dao actually used demonic blades to remove some of the giant ape's blood and tendons. They also took the spirit bead. The spirit bead. It was as big as a fist, which showed how deep the giant ape's cultivation was and how many years it had cultivated. Unfortunately, it died so tragically at the hands of two demon sovereigns. Blood Sovereign. This ape's entire body is filled with treasures. Have some people stay here and clean it up. Let's go in and take a look. Monarch Ba Mo stepped on the giant ape's head and strode forward. The other demonic path masters also entered the cave, stepping over the giant ape's corpse. That huge ape's corpse is a supreme treasure. If I can obtain it, it will be of great help to me. The huge ape's life force is extremely strong. I can infuse its blood into the yin-yang immortal sky pellet to strengthen it. At this moment, Su Fong's heart was set on obtaining the giant ape's corpse. His eyes were practically burning with desire. He told the Wuling Goblin to wait on the cliff in the distance. After waiting for half a day, he heard Blood Sovereign Sai say, "We only managed to obtain a few secret tomes. But from this one, we can tell that this cave really was an ancient demonic path's cultivation ground. There's a blood pool in the depths. Although it has already dried up, it still emits a shocking aura. Unfortunately, we came too late. The cave lost the protection of the formation in the wasteland, and the blood pool no longer exists." Monarch Ba Mo also said angrily, "From the remnant demonic runes in the blood pool, it is recorded that the cave's master cultivated a special kind of demonic art in the blood pool. From the looks of it, it must have been extraordinary. Unfortunately, it was destroyed by those big goblins. Those bastards. Let's go deeper. There's another place in Floating Soul Valley that also has a demonic Tao ruin." After waiting for a few breaths' time, Monarch Ba Mo and Blood Sovereign Sai led everyone out of the cave, leaving behind only two demonic Tao experts. They continued flying deeper into the abyss, disappearing in the blink of an eye. "Brother, we are also unlucky. We still have to clean up this demon's corpse and carefully search this cave for a while more. It may seem like a hard job, but if we find anything or obtain any treasures, we can share some. Moreover, Floating Soul Valley is so dangerous. There might be big goblin in the depths, as well as some unpredictable dangers. It is good for us to stay here. It is good to comfort ourselves like this." Inside the cave, the two demonic mountain disciples returned to the cave after sending off the experts. They spat their saliva impatiently. One of them stayed beside the giant ape and took out a bottle. The other went deeper into the cave, looking for something in the rubble and ruins. These two are very powerful, but they're still not as powerful as Tongba. The giant ape's corpse is extremely rare. We can obtain the corpse after killing these two. Also, Blood Sovereign Sai said that there's a blood pool in the depths of the cave. Could the blood pool be the ancient demonic golden core's blood pool that I am looking for? Could it be that the cave's master also cultivated the Yellow Springs Blood Sea? After using his grand perfection ability to capture the movements of the two demonic Tao experts, Fong did not follow them. Su Fong didn't plan to follow the two demon monarchs. Instead, he wanted to obtain the giant ape's corpse and enter the blood pool in the depths of the Devil's Denver. Perhaps this was the place he was looking for. Although the possibility was not high, he still had to take a look, especially the giant ape's corpse. Its powerful life force blood could make many commanders powerful. Bai Ling, Blue Feather King, the Undying Tortoise, and the Vermilion Emperor all needed it. Tongba, Su Fong suddenly released his vision and looked at the cave with the recovering Tung Ba. How strong are those two devils? Are you confident you can deal with them? Tung Ba had recovered a bit while he was in the crucible transformation realm. The yin-yang immortal sky pellet's wondrous effects made him exclaim in admiration. He immediately replied, "Their strength is not bad, but they are still not my match. This subordinate's opponent is the giant ape. Even if this subordinate is injured, I can still suppress those two." "That's good. You go deal with those two, and then I will release the gorilla devil. It will spray out poison to help you suppress them for a short period of time. If you do this well, I will give you even more yin-yang immortal sky pills. Furthermore, I will give you unimaginable benefits in the future. This subordinate is willing to serve master." Wooling Goblin. With a command, the Wooling Goblin crawled toward the demonic Chi cave that was half a mile away. Soon, they arrived at the demonic Chi cave. The cave was extremely large and majestic. The Wooling Goblin suddenly opened its mouth, and Su Fong came out. The moment he appeared, he sent out a stream of monstrous Chi into the cave. Whoosh! Demonic Chi surged out of thin air. Tung Ba, who was clad in armor, grabbed the meteor hammer and instantly charged into the cave with a huff. The 30-meter-long gorilla devil also arrived at the cave entrance and followed Su Fong into the cave. Pa! Pa! The inside was already filled with fighting auras. When Su Fong and the gorilla devil entered the cave, they saw a demonic Dao expert being smashed by Tung Ba's meteor hammer on his flying sword, sending him and his flying sword flying. As for the other person, he attacked Tung Ba, but he was easily blocked by Tung Ba. Tung Ba's meteor hammer forced the opponent to retreat. Chi! 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 Under Su Fong's control, the gorilla devil spat out two streams of poison. One stream pounced at the injured demonic Dao expert, while the other pounced at Tung Ba. Tung Ba dodged very cleverly, and the poison pounced on the demonic Dao expert. That demonic Dao expert was poisoned, and he crazily stimulated his golden core to ignite a terrifying demonic flame. He wanted to fight Tung Ba to the death. In order to prevent the two experts from asking Monarch Ba, Mo, and Blood Sovereign Sai for help, Su Fong asked Tung Ba to kill them. Tung Ba released even more demonic aura and threw out the meteor hammer in his hand. The demonic flame expert had just taken out his flying sword when he was sent flying by the meteor hammer's aura. In the next second, the meteor hammer smashed that demonic Dao expert into meat paste. Meat paste was also good stuff. Su Fong asked the ghouls to appear and enjoy the meat paste. He continued to ask Tung Ba to kill that severely injured demonic Dao expert. As for Su Fong, he went to the corpse of the giant ape that had its head cut open and activated the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. His palm turned into a pagoda door, and he sucked the head and corpse in. This was a treasure that allowed countless commanders to become stronger and crazily increase their strength. At this moment, Tung Ba carried a headless corpse over. Naturally, the corpse was shattered by his meteor hammer. The corpse was rewarded to the giant gorilla devil behind him. After absorbing the gorilla devil and the ghouls into his body, Su Fong brought Tung Ba to the center of the cave. Tung Ba looked around. This subordinate has never been here before. The Floating Soul Valley is not as famous as the Phoenix Transformation Valley. However, there is spatial turbulence below. I heard that it can suck people and objects into other spaces and get lost forever. It's fine. I just want to see if there's anything I want here. Bang! At this moment, Su Fong immediately used his great perfection ability to sense the surroundings of the demonic Chi cave. He really found some ancient era's immortal stones and a few ancient era's magic treasures. They were all demonic artifacts, but their quality was only average. He also found that the demonic Chi cave still had a bit of formation power. Buzz! Suddenly, some Dao runes from the heavenly secret life shrinking technique appeared in his mind. Su Fong analyzed the Dao runes and was pleasantly surprised. There was actually a trace of demonic Chi similar to the ancient devil gold core in this cave. What a coincidence! Could this really be the remains of the ancient devil gold core's owner? Tung Ba saw that Su Fong was pleasantly surprised and pondering for a while. He felt that it was very strange. He immediately brought Tung Ba deeper into the cave. At the same time, Su Fong took out many high-grade pills from the storage rings of the two demonic Dao experts he killed before and gave them to Tung Ba. The cave's periphery was almost 1 li wide. Inside the cave, there were many mysterious demonic runes and totems. When they entered the last cave, Su Fong's mind flashed with a strong Dao rune of destiny. The direction of the Dao rune was a pool in the cave. What pool? When Su Fong came to the side to take a look, he saw that there were blood-red rocks inside. It was about 10 zhang deep. There were some cracks at the bottom, but it was impossible for people to pass through. After looking around, he finally found a demonic chi similar to the ancient devil gold core in some of the demonic runes that had disappeared beside the blood pool. The demonic runes intertwined to form a white-robed old man embedded in the rock. There are also some blurry demonic runes around him. In summary, this white-robed old man was the master of the demonic Dao cultivators in this cave. He was called the 100 Virtue Ancient Devil. It was the 100 Virtue Ancient Devil's demonic runes that had the same aura as the ancient devil gold core. After thinking for a while, Su Fong's eyes suddenly lit up. The 100 Virtue Ancient Devil Gold Core. It seems like the ancient devil cave's owner was once the 100 Virtue Ancient Devil's disciple. The 100 Virtue Ancient Devil is most likely the owner of the ancient devil gold core. Buzz. There was a buzz in his mind. Su Fong looked away from the 100 Virtue Ancient Devil's demonic runes and brought Tung Ba to the periphery of the cave in horror. He used his perfected ability. Not good. 5 demonic mountain experts are coming. They are just 100 meters away from the cave. It's obvious that they have sensed the appearance of the 2 demonic Dao experts. Master, Tung Ba was also anxious. There were 5 of them, and they should be stronger than the 2 demonic Dao experts. They were just 100 meters away. It was impossible to escape now. Su Fong couldn't think of any good ideas. Chapter 1033. Su Fong suddenly looked around. There was no cave at all, and there was no other way out. However, when he saw the dried blood pool, his eyes lit up. Suddenly, he released the woolen goblin. It transformed into its true form and sucked Su Fong and Tung Ba into its stomach before quickly crawling towards the blood pool. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, 5 demonic mountain experts with demonic auras flashed outside the cave. These 5 experts were too powerful. They were twice as powerful as the 2 experts killed by Tung Ba previously. They were even more powerful than Qi Yinzi and Huangfu Xiao Xiao. Existences of this level should be the true core disciples of Demonic Mountain, just below the elders. Seal the cave entrance, and the lives of the 2 junior brothers disappeared. In addition, the giant ape's corpse is also gone. The person who attacked is probably still in this ancient cave. Whoosh, whoosh. One of them gave a strict order. One of the experts immediately formed a seal to seal the entrance of the cave tightly and left it in the cave. The remaining 4 experts stood side by side and released their sensing power. Through the whistling devil chi, they scanned the surroundings, not wanting to miss any place. Inside the cave, inside the dry blood pool, even the wooling goblin was sweating. It transformed into a stone belt and slowly crawled from the edge of the pool to the wall of the pool that was 100 feet deep. Inside, Tung Ba looked at Su Fong. Master, where should we escape to? There's no place to hide in this blood pool. At this moment, the supreme, domineering aura of a small world's realm master suddenly appeared on Su Fong's face. Let the wooling goblin go deep into the crack first. As deep as it can go. If it really can't go, we'll just fight it out. Fight? How could he fight a dignified demon king like Tung Ba? He was not confident, and he kept gasping. At this moment, under Su Fong's control, the wooling goblin reached the bottom of the blood pool that was 70 to 80 feet deep. It was just a little bit away from those cracks. The cracks in the depths looked less than half a foot wide. How could a person fit in? His great perfection ability was also being released. He could clearly sense that outside the blood pool, the four demonic experts were slowly approaching the inner cavern. In a few breaths of time, they would arrive at the blood pool. Once they arrived at the blood pool, he could only stimulate the godly might of the earth as much as possible, allowing the Wuling Goblin to hide in the cracks. The Wuling Goblin was an earth elemental spiritual monster. In addition, Su Fong had the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, a natal magic weapon. He also had the earth elemental divine power. With the release of the power of the world, Su Fong believed that he could hide the Wuling Goblin in the crack. However, he was still not sure if he could hide it from the four masters. Master! At this critical moment, the Wuling Goblin had already reached the bottom of the blood pool. With Su Fong's permission, it suddenly crawled towards one of the bloody cracks. Su Fong also began to activate the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. Buzz! As a result, just as the Wuling Goblin entered the bloody crack, Su Fong saw a strange Xianguang in the crack that turned blood red. Suddenly, as the Wuling Goblin entered, it suddenly became dazzling. Even his great perfection vision could not see what was going on. It was not as good as his other senses, but he sensed that the Wuling Goblin seemed to have lost its center of gravity at this moment and fell into an infinite abyss. Moreover, there was a familiar yet unfamiliar spatial airflow that was dragging the Wuling Goblin into the bloody abyss. Not only was the Wuling Goblin scared out of its wits, but even Tung Ba was trembling in fear. No one knew what the abyss of the wasteland was or what had happened. However, with Su Fongda's great perfection ability, although he temporarily lost his vision, his other senses were still there. He felt as if he had fallen into an abyss in the depths of the wasteland. In other words, under the blood pool, those seemingly ordinary cracks were actually connected to the abyss in the depths of the wasteland. After about 3 breaths, under the great perfection perception, a hole seemed to have appeared in the abyss of the wasteland of nothingness, as if there was a suction force that swallowed the Wuling Goblin. Then, an impact force shook the Wuling Goblin until it screamed in pain. At this time, Su Fongda's great perfection vision also recovered. As the Wuling Goblin turned upside down, it suddenly saw that it seemed to be in an ancient abyss of demonic qi. There was another rumble. Su Fong immediately flew out of the Wuling Goblin's body with Tung Ba. When they landed, they saw that the Wuling Goblin was seriously injured, and there were several lacerations on its body. He quickly gave it a pill and then absorbed it into the Crucible Transformation Cauldron. The Crucible Transformation Cauldron could absorb the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky pill to recover. Tung Ba suddenly looked uneasy. Master here. Su Fong immediately cared about the Wuling Goblin. This was the big goblin that came to the great world with him from the small world, and it had contributed to him many times. After comforting it, Tung Ba pointed, and his eyes were filled with shock. Suddenly, there were 2 30-feet tall demonic statues in front of them. Without any warning, their faces were ferocious, and their hands were brandishing large sabers. Their eyes were staring at him. He was so scared that he was out of breath. Fortunately, he had the great perfection ability, and he immediately realized that the 2 demonic statues were not alive, but just statues. They were just too lifelike. Where's this place? A big question mark floated in Su Fong's mind. He then looked around the demonic statues with Tung Ba. This was actually a huge ancient cave that was more than 5 kilometers wide. Other than the occasional airflow, it was very obvious that there was ancient demonic qi. Behind them was a bottomless abyss filled with spatial turbulence. The spatial turbulence released a shocking suction force, sucking in some substances from time to time. Master, this seems to be a wasteland. What happened just now? Could it be that there's something strange about the blood pool? After looking for a while, he could not see anything. He was just slightly used to this gloomy, deep world. Tung Ba's face was full of questions, and he wanted to ask nonstop. In fact, even Su Fong could not answer. However, he had a feeling that the blood pool was not simple, just like Tung Ba. He did not understand, but someone guaranteed that he knew. That person was Luo. When he asked, Luo said from the blood jade, that demonic qi cave is still very strange, especially that blood pool. In fact, that blood pool has a very strange spatial formation that allows the blood pool to merge with the space in the depths of the wasteland. Once someone enters the depths of the blood pool, they will enter the spatial formation and come to this demonic chi cave. Why didn't the two demonic sovereigns see the secret below the blood pool? Thinking of Ba Emo's sovereign and Sai Shue's sovereign, Su Fong felt that something was wrong. Could it be that, with their cultivation bases, they cannot see through the secret here? Luo explained, spatial formations are the strangest of all formations. Cultivators who can master spatial formations are very rare. In addition, this spatial formation is naturally fused with the blood pool. Below the blood pool is the abyss of the wasteland. Ordinary people cannot see through it. Although the two demonic sovereigns are powerful, if they do not personally go down to the blood pool, they will not be able to see it. So that's how it is. Su Fong finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. However, there were more doubts in his heart. A demonic cultivator actually spent so much effort to design the entrance. Then this demonic chi cave was definitely not simple. Buzz. Releasing his full power, Su Fong's perception began to fluctuate violently. He immediately looked in the direction of the two demonic statues. It's the aura of the ancient devil gold core. It's very powerful and very abundant. This is the ancient ruin that the demonic cultivator who obtained the ancient devil gold core accidentally came to. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. Su Fong had painstakingly searched a large amount of wasteland for half a year, but he did not find the demonic ruins where the ancient devil gold core was. He did not expect to find it so quickly. After calming down, he began to carefully walk towards the two demonic statues with the big goblin tongue Ba. The demonic statues were extremely lifelike. They were enlarged versions of demonic cultivators. Behind the demonic statues was a circular stone door that was nearly 30 meters tall. It seemed to be perfectly fused with the rocks behind it. There was no way to open the stone door. Just as he and Tung Ba were carefully walking past the demonic statues, Luo suddenly said, "Don't be ignorant of treasures." "What's wrong? There are treasures?" Su Fong was startled and immediately stopped. He looked around, but did not find any treasures. "The two demonic statues above us are treasures." Demonic statues. When he looked up, he could not help but feel a chill on his neck. That was because the demonic statues were holding two large blades that were pointed at his neck. With one slash, his head would be separated from his body. "Master." Tung Ba also looked around when he saw Su Fong was stunned. These two demonic statues are puppets refined by demonic cultivators. The outside is covered by rocks while the inside is the true body of the puppet. Break the outer wall of the demonic statues. When the demonic statues appear, drip your blood into them and fuse with them. Will there be a mechanism? If there really is a mechanism, it would have been destroyed by cultivators who came here before. For example, that demonic cultivator who obtained the ancient devil gold core. He also came here before, but he was able to return alive. That means the entrance here has already been destroyed. Then it won't be easy to break these demonic statues. After chatting with Luo, he brought Tumba back a bit. When he sensed the demonic statues again, they had a faint demonic nature. He really could not tell that they were treasures. He immediately had Tung Ba use his meteor hammer to attack the demonic statues. Tung Ba was a bit afraid and did not understand. When he learned that there were puppets inside, he understood what was going on. He then carefully swung his meteor hammer at one of the demonic statues. Crack! Tung Ba was already very strong. Coupled with a high-grade Dharma treasure, his attack was shockingly powerful. The demonic statue immediately shattered. The black rocks on its surface began to peel off piece by piece along with the cracks. After a while, 1/3 of the demonic statues disappeared. A demonic statue that was emitting a shocking amount of demonic chi appeared. It was entirely black and golden. Although it was also lifelike, it was not a real person. It was a puppet refined from material. This kind of puppet was also a kind of Dharma treasure, a kind of divine weapon. Tung Ba was shocked by Su Fong. He could even find a treasure here. Next, He broke the outer layer of the other demonic statue. It was also a puppet. The two puppets were exactly the same. Furthermore, they were both high-grade Dharma treasures. These two puppets were of the same quality as high-grade Dharma treasures. Tumba was also amazed. Master, you've struck gold. I've heard that in the human world, this kind of puppet Dharma treasure is very rare. Su Fong circled around the demonic statues. Behind the two demonic statues, two lines of demonic text appeared. To enter the 100 Virtues Ancient Devil's Dojo, you must cultivate the yellow spring blood sea. He was very excited. This is it. This is the place I'm looking for. If the yellow spring blood sea is here, then this demonic relic must be the dojo of the 100 Virtues Ancient Devil. However, Tung Ba still did not know what Su Fong meant. He dripped his blood to identify the treasures. Su Fong would not be polite. He was also worried that a powerhouse from the demonic mountain would enter the blood pool and accidentally enter the blood pool spatial formation. He asked Ting Ba to keep an eye on the surroundings from behind. When he saw the circular ancient stone door behind him, he immediately rose into the air and condensed a few drops of blood, which dripped on the heads of the puppets. He also released demonic chi to entangle the two puppets. The puppets were black and golden before, and their luster was a little dim. However, after absorbing the blood, they suddenly came to life from holding weapons and looking like they were in an attacking state. They suddenly stood upright and turned to look at Su Fong as if they were also alive. This kind of puppet is not complicated, and it's easy to fuse with it. Although it's a Dharma treasure like a Dharma treasure, it's not as complicated as a Dharma treasure. Its attacks are simple, and it only knows some ordinary divine abilities, Luo Zai said calmly. Chapter 1034. After Law finished speaking, Su Fong looked at the two cold puppets that were fusing with the blood essence. I think that the simpler the puppets, the better. Is that so? Law was surprised. It is not easy for a cultivator to cultivate. You have to control your magic power, true chi, physical strength, life force, and countless meridians and flesh. When facing a strong enemy, sometimes directly activating a strong destructive power is the simplest way to attack. This kind of puppet is just right for this purpose. Once activated, it can use its destructive power to kill a strong enemy and defeat them. For you to have such an understanding is also a kind of growth for you. Now, let's take a look at the ancient stone door. At this moment, Su Fong's attention was on the circular stone door behind him. The stone door was almost black, as if it was carved from a cliff and naturally fused with the rock. After an hour, the two puppets finally fused and were sucked into Su Fong's hands at the same time. Now, other than the powerful gorilla demon and Tung Ba that were suppressed previously, Su Fong also had two puppets that could fight against strong experts. Tung Ba came forward. Congratulations, Master, for obtaining such a unique treasure. Think of a way to enter the stone door. There must be many treasures inside. You will also benefit from it. He nodded and brought Tung Ba to the stone door. When they arrived at the circular stone door, it was as if they were facing an incomparably sturdy rock that could not be shaken. Tung Ba first glanced and carefully sized it up, but he was very disappointed. It is perfect. There are no gaps, but there are many devil patterns. Master, I can't do anything about it. Don't worry, since there's a door here, it means that there's a way to enter. Wait first. If it was easy to find the stone door's secret, then the demonic cultivator who obtained the ancient devil gold core would have already entered the stone door. He released his grand perfection realm ability and looked at the stone door from top to bottom. Some of the tadpole-like devil patterns made Su Fong's eyes light up with joy. From these devil patterns, there were records about the stone door. It turned out that this was the mark of the 100 Virtue Ancient Devil Dao field, and it was the tomb of the 100 Virtue Ancient Devil. Most of the devil patterns were inscriptions, but there was no information about opening the stone door. However, there was a section of devil patterns that mentioned that this stone door could only be opened by the fated person who controlled the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. Yellow Spring Blood Sea. The ancient devil golden core was right. If he wanted to enter the ancient devil mausoleum, he had to start from the Acheron Blood Sea. However, The inscriptions didn't mention how to use the Yellow Springs Blood Sea to enter the depths of the stone door. Luo. After a stalemate for half a second, Su Fong could only ask Luo for help. However, Law said indifferently, "This requires you to focus your mind and put yourself in a supreme state of concentration. When you look at the stone door again, you will find something. It's best if you release your devil chi. It will be more helpful for you to be in the state of devil chi. Since you want everything here, you have to have this ability." All right. It seems that Law is numb and has no intention of helping. But in reality, he had already helped him by telling him how to open the stone door. This was like a Hercules who only had physical strength. If he wanted to move an unshakable boulder, he could only use brute force. However, those who were wise could combine their strength ingeniously and easily move the boulder. Su Fong used to be a Hercules. With Law's method, Su Fong can open the stone gate. Since that was the case, he immediately sat cross-legged in front of the stone door and activated the heavenly demon book. The devil chi in his body kept hiding and was released with a whoosh. Tung Ba kept exclaiming as he watched below. He never thought that Su Fong, a cave immortal, could control the power of the righteous path and the devil path at will. In the state of devil chi, Su Fong burned his sea of mana. After burning continuously, Su Fong abandoned all distracting thoughts. The Baishan Demon Lord, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor, the constellation of 9 heavens, baby Huangfu, Li Qianxi, Mu Shuo, Huangfu Yanhai, Huangfu Duan, Prince Shui, Huang Lingyao, and Sheng Changsheng. There was only himself, and then there was only the ancient stone door in front of him that was covered with devil patterns. He seemed to have lost his center of gravity. All he could see was the stone door. Gradually, he could see the trajectory of the devil patterns with the naked eye, as well as some carvings that contained devil patterns. It was as if the stone door in front of him was a surging sea of devil chi, and Su Fong was somehow in this sea of devil chi. The sea of devil chi was constantly attacking the weak him, as if it was about to devour him time and time again. Su Fong knew that all of this was fake, but he still continued to surge with the sea of devil chi. Finally, he gained something. As the sea of devil chi surged to the end, Su Fong saw that the place where the sea of devil chi went was actually a blood-colored hole that was only as thick as a finger. A blood-colored hole. It was so small and insignificant that it actually swallowed the entire sea of devil chi. It was not simple. All the power surged into the blood-colored hole. The stone door disappeared, and only this blood-colored hole existed. The mystery is this blood-colored hole. After finding the secret of the stone door, he suddenly activated his true chi. All the illusions suddenly disappeared, but the blood-colored hole was deeply imprinted in the depths of the stone door. Su Fong could see the blood-colored hole in the depths of the stone door at a glance. Law suddenly said, "Yes, the blood-colored hole is the secret of the stone door. It is also the passage to the 100 virtues ancient devil Tao right." Then how do I go in? This was a huge problem that Su Fong helplessly placed in front of him. This is why the Yellow Springs Blood Sea is the only condition to enter the ruins. That blood-colored hole is actually very simple. You just need to activate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea and follow the path you saw formed by the devil runes. Enter the blood-colored hole in the state of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. It's so simple. It was originally not troublesome, but your cultivation is too low and you have too little experience. It is hard for you to see through the truth and the essence of matter. That is to say, my cultivation is far from enough. I am very weak now, but in the future, I will definitely become a peerless immortal emperor like the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. It is time to go in. Yellow Springs Blood Sea. After saying that, Su Fong first let Tung Ba enter the treasure space, then looked at the devil runes on the stone door. In a breath's time, he saw the blood-colored hole. The blood-colored hole seemed to have a boundless attractive force that wanted Su Fong to enter. Furthermore, from that blood-colored hole, he could sense the same devil chi as the ancient devil gold core. His body immediately began to crack and gradually turned into blood. Boom! Just as Su Fang's entire body was about to turn into blood, a deafening roar suddenly came from above the abyss of nothingness. It was so shocking that the entire land in the depths of the ruins began to shake. Su Fang, who had already turned into blood, condensed a human face from the blood. He turned to look at the void of nothingness behind him. There was actually a blood-colored devil, Qi Xian Guang, seeping out from above. Move! Someone is also coming in from the blood pool. Law hastily reminded them. Su Fang's entire body was in blood. He activated the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, and the body formed from blood rushed towards the devil runes on the stone door. Whoosh! Whoosh! Devil Chi figures immediately appeared above the void of nothingness. The blood-colored devil Qi, Xian Guang, appeared in the form of lines and then turned into real figures. The first to appear was the celestial devil mountain's blood monarch. He noticed the devil runes on the stone door as soon as he appeared. Next to him were a dozen devil Dao experts from the celestial devil mountain. Su Fang's blood had already begun to seep into the devil runes on the stone door. A blood-colored crack appeared in the stone door, sucking in half of Su Fang's Yellow Springs Blood Sea state. Su Fang's human face looked back in horror. It's really a master from the Celestial Devil Mountain. Blood Monarch, it seems that the Celestial Devil Mountain is indeed a big force. The mysterious death of 2 disciples made them want to investigate the devil's den above. In the end, the blood pool was the best, but it still made Blood Monarch discover the secret space formation and come here. Fortunately, I've already found the secret of the stone door. This also shows that big forces are not so easy to fool. Oh, the blood-colored devil light had not completely disappeared. Blood Monarch, who had just become real, suddenly shrank his pupils. There was a touch of blood in his pupils, and Su Fang's human face. Sure enough, there's something strange. This should be the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's ruins. You brat, how dare you kill my Celestial Devil Mountain's disciples and seize everything by yourself? You're courting death. Blood Monarch, who had the strength of an elder, actually came out in anger. Seeing Blood Monarch coming, Su Fang's heart kept thumping. Fortunately, 4/5 of the blood pool state was gone, so there was only a little left. Chi Chi Chi. Su Fang didn't expect Blood Monarch Sai to reach the stone door in the blink of an eye. He waved his hand, and a supreme devil aura swept out towards Su Fang's remaining blood pool. Boom! It seemed that Su Fang was going to die this time. Even Su Fang himself was scared. But the result was the opposite. Blood Monarch Sai's terrifying power seemed to have hit the blood pool, but it actually hit the demonic stone door. It only shook the stone door, but it couldn't affect Su Fang. Su Fang's human face suddenly became proud. Hee, Blood Monarch Sai, you're overestimating yourself. This is a relic left behind by an ancient demon venerable. How can you compare to an ancient demon venerable? You're really powerful, but don't be so proud. You think I can't take you down just because you have the stone door's demonic patterns protecting you? Blood Monarch Sai shouted furiously. That's your problem. Supreme Devour. In the next second, Su Fang almost completely disappeared into the stone door and entered the blood-colored world inside the stone door. But Blood Monarch Sai suddenly separated his hands, and his body suddenly shattered and turned into blood pool. His blood pool was really blood pool, blood red. Su Fang's Yellow Spring Blood Sea looked like blood pool, but it was very viscous and couldn't be seen through. As expected of the title of Blood Monarch, it was Su Fang's turn to be unable to laugh. He never expected Blood Monarch Sai to have such ability. Only now do you realize how terrifying I am. The treasury belongs to my demonic mountain. Blood Monarch Sai, who had turned into blood pool, suddenly rushed towards the stone door. He was only 1 meter away from Su Fang's blood pool. It seemed that Su Fang had no chance to escape at this distance, but he was already sweating profusely. Chi Chi, Blood Monarch Sai's blood pool, suddenly touched Su Fang's blood pool. Many blood-colored bone claws grew out, wanting to grab Su Fang's blood pool. But Su Fang's worried expression suddenly disappeared. Instead, he calmed down. Bang, bang, bang. As a result, Just as the blood-colored bone claws grabbed Su Fang's blood pool, a supreme divine power appeared in the surroundings and turned into a Xian Guang of demonic qi. It swept up the blood-colored bone claws and blood monarch-sized blood pool, overturning it. Su Fang's remaining blood pool emitted a demonic flame. Then, Su Fang's face and the last bit of blood pool disappeared into the blood-colored opening and also disappeared into the depths of the demonic stone door. Damn it, this kid seems to be a cave immortal, an ordinary demonic cultivator, but he actually has such a demonic body. Blood monarch-sized blood pool flew several meters away and transformed back into his original body. The dozen or so demonic cultivators behind him also gathered around him. One of them suggested, "Demon Monarch, let's use all our strength to break this stone door. Once we open the stone door, the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's ruins will naturally be ours." The others also agreed, especially when they saw someone enter the ruins first. How could they be willing to accept it? Blood Monarch Sai suddenly waved his hand and ordered someone, "Immediately go and find Sovereign Ba Mo. I'll join hands with him first. I think we can break the stone door if we join hands. If it doesn't work, we can only ask the sect to send experts to help. We can't let the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's ruins be taken away by a kid." Chapter 1035. Yes, we will release the mark immediately. Several experts flew towards the abyss of spatial turbulence behind them. Blood Sovereign Sai led the remaining people to the area around the demonic stone gate and carefully searched the inner and outer layers of the gate. Blood Sovereign, this stone gate is unfathomable. It is perfectly integrated with this wasteland. How many years did it take to achieve this state? The Yellow Spring Devil Emperor is one of the most ferocious devil emperors in our Devil Path's ancient records. He once established the Yellow Spring Immortal World, causing the Righteous Path's immortal world to tremble in fear. How many magic treasures did he have, and how many experts gathered under him? The kid who entered the Stone Gate was also a Devil Path cultivator, but I don't know where he came from. He should be a rogue cultivator who got lucky and entered the Stone Gate. Blood Sovereign, this person's cultivation is not high. Even if he obtained the ruins, it is impossible for him to come out from the inside. Taking a step back, since it is the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's ruins, it is impossible for an ordinary cultivator to control it. That makes sense. At this time, several Devil Path experts surrounded Blood Sovereign Sai and spoke their thoughts. They also hoped that Blood Sovereign Sai would not be so angry. They all knew that a dignified Devil Mountain sovereign, an elder, could not take down a cave immortal. Who would believe this? Blood Sovereign Sai coldly stared at the stone gate. "Everyone, use your own abilities to break the demonic patterns on the stone gate. When Sovereign Ba Mo arrives, the stone gate will break." Yes. The experts began to release demonic qi and let it seep into the stone gate. And all of this, Su Fan, who had entered the stone gate, saw everything clearly. Even he found it hard to believe. It was as if Blood Sovereign Sai and the Devil Path experts were walking and discussing in front of him. Blood Sovereign Sai is truly worthy of being a sovereign lord. What shocking strength. Just now, if it weren't for the divine shackles of the stone gate protecting me, I'm afraid I would have already been pulled out of the stone gate or crushed to pieces on the spot. His face was covered in cold sweat. Then he recovered from his panic and slowly looked behind him. At this moment, he saw that he was in a blood-red sea filled with blood-red demon qi. Everything in this sea of blood-red demon qi seemed to be a peerless space that could only be released by an expert who had mastered the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. There's a trace of life aura. Suddenly, his weak perception sensed a wisp of mana in front of him. It was the mana of life. In addition, there should be an end in front of him. It should be the ruins of the Baishan ancient demon. Su Fang tried his best to activate the underworld blood sea, but he could only use the strength of his feet to slowly float into the depths of the blood-red devil qi sea. Su Fang finally understood why only those who cultivated the underworld blood sea could enter the Baishan ancient devil ruins. It was because only those who cultivated the underworld blood sea could enter the blood-red Devil Chi Sea. After floating for almost an hour, Su Fong finally found the source of that wisp of life mana. There was a demonic chi seal at the end of the bloody demonic chi ocean. Within the demonic chi was a palm-sized blob of blood. In the blood, a face the size of a walnut could be seen. Yellow Springs Blood Sea. Inside the demonic chi seal was someone who had cultivated the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. As he got closer, he could clearly see the human face in the blood. It was the Baishan ancient demon's devil pattern carving that he had seen at the periphery of the blood pool. It was the Baishan ancient devil, but he hadn't expected that an ancient devil sovereign would be reduced to a palm-sized Yellow Springs Blood Sea. When Su Fong got closer, the blood in the seal suddenly ignited. The Baishan ancient devil's face also slightly straightened. It slowly opened its eyes and looked at Su Fong with a trace of surprise. Junior Su Fong greets Senior Baishan. He didn't dare act rashly. Not only was the other party a peerless expert, but he also controlled the bloody demonic chi ocean. But Su Fong respected this person because he was a peerless expert. Experts were all worthy of respect. They had all gone through countless battles and dangers to obtain their peerless strength. The Baishan ancient devil's face was 10,000 times more natural than Su Fong's. It seemed to be immersed in the blood. It slowly opened its mouth and said in an ancient voice, "I'm a bit surprised. I felt that someone who had the karmic luck and strength to enter this place should be a peerless expert. This junior is indeed a bit unqualified." Su Fong shook his head helplessly. "You're qualified. If you weren't, why would you appear here? You're only at the 8 Dao Cave Immortal Realm, yet you're able to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea I left in the ancient Devil Gold Core. That's a peerless cultivation technique. Not even celestial immortals can cultivate it, but you've done it. You're qualified. That means you have peerless strength, courage, and wisdom. I was only able to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea by chance. I can guess how difficult it is for you to come here with your grotto immortal cultivation. Even the stone door outside is not something a grotto immortal cultivator can open. You are a young and promising junior. When I was in the grotto immortal, I couldn't cultivate the underworld blood sea. It was only after I became a master that I started to cultivate this peerless cultivation method. I won't say more about these insignificant things. The reason why I'm still alive and have a little bit of life force left is that I want to pass everything to the destined person, which is you. I'll definitely work hard. Young man, you're called Su Fong. I'll remember that name. You must have come here for the inheritance I've been cultivating all my life. Indeed, this is the 100 Virtues Tao Temple, and it's a part of my inheritance. But that's not important, because the secret of this ruin isn't the treasures, resources, or devil path cultivation techniques I left behind. There are other secrets. I'm all ears. I'll have to start from my past. Have you heard of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor? I've never heard of him before. Later, I learned that the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor was a peerless devil emperor from a long time ago. Yes, that's not a legend. It's real. The Yellow Springs Devil Emperor really did exist. The Yellow Springs Immortal World also once stood proudly in the Immortal World. I was one of the 2 envoys by the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's side. I witnessed his glorious but short life. The 100 Virtues ancient devil side. I've wasted my life. Sitting here, I've forgotten who I am. In the past, I followed the Supreme Devil Lord, conquering the world and establishing everything. Young man, Su Fong, are you in the mood to listen to my past? Su Fong hastily nodded. Of course. Junior is also very interested in the passage of time and the secrets of the ancient era. I'm a bit talkative. After all, how many years has it been since I last spoke? I, the 100 Virtues ancient devil, followed the Yellow Springs Devil Lord after he became famous. I was once a righteous Tao cultivator. I remember those years very clearly. In order to join a power, I walked alone for tens of thousands of miles. Unfortunately, because I didn't give any benefits to the disciples of that power, I was mercilessly swept into the wilderness. Fortunately, I met the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor who was on his way to conquer that power. That was the first time I saw the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. He was very ordinary, a black-robed young man in his 20s. He was roasting meat alone in the forest. When I smelled the meat, I woke up from my coma. I struggled to climb up and saw the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor, as well as that delicious meat. How could I have known that he was the Yellow Spring Great Emperor? He wasn't surprised at all when he saw me. He just put a piece of roasted meat aside and didn't say anything. He just watched me crawl towards him bit by bit. My skin was torn and my flesh was filled with stone dregs. I didn't get the roasted meat until I was about to breathe my last breath. I remember very clearly. After I ate my fill, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor spoke. He only said one thing. People are still people. They still need to eat. After that one sentence, he disappeared. When I recovered and left the mountains, I saw that the world was in ruins. The great forces of the past were gone, and the corpses of the disciples of the great forces were everywhere. The corpses were piled up like mountains. Suddenly, the world turned into a sea of blood. I will never forget that scene for the rest of my life. That sea of blood suddenly descended from the heavens and earth, occupying the ruined training grounds of the former great forces. It actually covered countless corpses in an instant. I saw that sea of blood eating the corpses of the fallen disciples of the great forces. I heard the sound of bones breaking. I also heard the desolate cries for help from some disciples who were lucky enough to still be alive. When the blood disappeared, the countless corpses disappeared, and the world was no longer violent, I looked at the sky again. A young man in black suddenly walked out of the blood. It was a familiar face. He walked into the depths of the sky alone, but soon figures appeared beside him. I don't know what kind of power it was, but it made me chase after him with large strides. I became a part of that man's side, a part of the Yellow Spring Celestial Realm, a part of the Yellow Spring Celestial Realm, a part of the people who witnessed the birth of an immortal legend. The eyes of the Baishan ancient devil became wet at this moment. He looked just like an old man. As the old man nearing the end of his life was about to say something, Su Fang's face was filled with shock, and he stood there like a wooden puppet. He was unable to recover for a long time, because in Su Fang's mind, there was only one scene. A man was standing on the corpses of the disciples of the great forces of the Yellow Springs Celestial Realm. The ancient devil Baishan suddenly released his aura, causing Su Fang to wake up. I have too many stories. No matter how dazzling they are, they can't compare to even a 10,000th of the Devil Masters. Young man, Su Fang, the Devil Emperor's past, the Devil Emperor's story, did it make your blood boil? I saw that you were also a devil cultivator when you entered the stone gate. You dared to face him head-on, which means you are also a decisive and ruthless person. I admit I'm decisive, but ruthless. Su Fang didn't agree. My principle is that if others don't bully me, I won't bully them. I also won't kill the innocent. That's your way of doing things, but it doesn't represent your heart. The ancient devil Baishan suddenly shouted, "Calm down and think about it. See if I'm right. Do you think that in a world of countless monsters, a kind human can live for as long as you want? It's just like the cultivation world you live in. No matter if you're a human, a devil, or a devil, you're living in a monster world. Don't you find it strange that you're able to live until now? It's because you have an obsession in your heart, something that allowed you to live until today. It's called a Tao heart. A Tao heart in front of cultivators like us who have truly experienced the vicissitudes of life is ruthless. Tao heart ruthless." Su Fang was silent because he suddenly found that he had nothing to say. Chapter 1036. This silent quibble was because ancient devil Baishan's words had deeply touched him. Many scenes flashed through his mind. In the past, why had he killed his way into Zhao? Was it just for revenge? That was because he wanted to prove himself and obtain recognition. He had to take down Zhao. That way, not only would he be able to take revenge, but he would also be able to conquer the impossible and prove that he could do it. He had met that heartless granny who had tried to kill him time and time again. Was it because he wanted to live that he had resisted an undefeatable existence? No, that was just an excuse. The main reason was because Su Fang wanted to defeat an expert and prove himself to Xiao Mei. It was because of his viciousness that he was able to turn the situation around step by step. He killed those who needed to be killed without hesitation. Now that he thought about it, it was just because he didn't want to face reality. Living in this world meant that people killed people, people ate people, and I killed you, and you killed me. You can only rely on yourself to carve out a future and prove everything with your actions. But if you don't even have the strength and courage to live, how can you live until tomorrow? That's me, and that's you. Your heart isn't malicious, but in order to survive and become stronger, you've already forged a ruthless Tao heart in your heart. Those who bully me will die, and those who block me will be destroyed. I want to become a peerless figure. I want to stand at the top of the world. Because of this courage, if you can face your Tao heart directly, then your path of cultivation will be wider and smoother. Senior, I'll remember your words. Sometimes, I just don't want my hands to be covered in blood. Haha, you're too soft-hearted. Moreover, I've already said that viciousness isn't just killing on the surface. Just now, when you were attacked by that devil, you resolutely resisted and dared to enter this place. That's your viciousness. Only with that viciousness and ruthlessness can you accomplish everything. Blood doesn't necessarily mean anything. You'll definitely become a peerless figure because I see the Devil Lord's shadow in you. Me? How could I have the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's shadow? Just now, I told you some of the Devil Lord's past. You'll think he's a devil who kills without blinking. In truth, the Devil Lord isn't a true devil Tao cultivator. He's also a righteous Tao cultivator. The reason he's called a devil is because he wants to take revenge. In order to protect his friends, he conquers the world step by step, crushing all opposition. But he's different from you. You'll hesitate, you'll restrain yourself. But the Devil Lord will face all difficulties without hesitation. He knows that if he doesn't act, his family, his friends, and his past hatred will only make him powerless to struggle. The Devil Lord resolutely slaughtered his way out of this world. That's how the Devil Lord truly wants to become a legend. You also have the Devil Lord's forbearance and Tao heart, but you don't have the Devil Lord's righteous killing, nor the courage to see yourself clearly. By Shan, ancient devil suppressed his momentum. As long as you kill people, it means your heart is very ruthless. That's a fact you can't deny. Let's not talk about this. After all, you're just a cave immortal. You won't understand just by saying a few words. But I believe you're gradually changing yourself. You'll also become someone like the Devil Lord. Now, I'll tell you the real secret of my Tao Temple. It's actually to protect the Devil Lord's tomb, as well as the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's remains that everyone wants to find. Su Fong was still speechless. Fortunately, he quickly recovered and looked blindly at the sea of blood. Senior Yellow Springs tomb is also here. No, this place only has the key to the Devil Lord's Tao Temple. You have to listen carefully. When the Devil Lord created the Yellow Springs immortal world, he wanted to create a world outside the reincarnation cycle of the laws of a major world. The Devil Lord wanted to go against the heavens. Why did cultivators have to live according to the laws of a major world? Wouldn't they be shackled forever? On the other hand, he also wanted to revive his dead friends and family. That was why he wanted to create the Yellow Springs immortal world outside the reincarnation cycle. But when the Devil Lord created the immortal world and began to create a world outside the reincarnation cycle, he suffered the wrath of the heavens during his tribulation. I've never seen the wrath of the heavenly Taos before. The pitiful Devil Lord had just reached the peak. He didn't have time to release his brilliance to the boundless major world before he fell under the power of the abominable heavenly laws. The heavenly Taos didn't allow anyone to go against them. The Devil Lord fell. His short life is still the brilliance that can't be erased. In fact, before the Devil Lord went through his tribulation, he faintly sensed that there was a crisis of the heavenly Taos that always haunted him. Even a heaven-defying figure like the Devil Lord had no choice but to make arrangements for his funeral with me and another guardian. Do you know how painful it was for the Devil Lord, who was at the peak of his power? In the end, the Devil Lord arranged for many people to secretly protect themselves in advance. After the Devil Lord was killed by the heavenly wrath, countless Devil Tao and righteous Tao forces attacked the Yellow Springs immortal realm under the banner of eliminating the Devil Lord. Although the immortal realm resisted for a while without the Devil Lord, in the end, it couldn't hold on for long. You don't know what kind of massacre it was. When the righteous Tao and righteous Tao forces attacked the immortal realm, they killed anyone they saw and plundered any treasures they saw. Even the weak mortals like women, children, and the elderly were slaughtered one by one. Not a single one was left alive. The Devil Lord once planned to dismiss all the mortals, but he felt that those forces and people only hated him and wouldn't affect the innocent mortals. Those devil cultivators have been in the ruins of the Yellow Springs immortal world for several years, using living people and corpses for cultivation. Those righteous cultivators have plundered all the treasures of the Yellow Springs immortal world. This is what people call the righteous cultivators. When they kill people, they are no less ruthless than those of the devil cultivators. I understand that the Devil Lord challenged the laws of heaven and earth. Once he died, the scene would be like this. The Devil Lord also anticipated many things that would happen. Fortunately, everything that belonged to the Devil Lord, including the reincarnation cycle that he established, was sealed in the depths of this wasteland in time. Then, another emissary and I established 2 great Tao temples to guard the Devil Lord's Tao temples. Anyone who wants to enter the Tao temples has to go through the 2 emissaries' protection. Young man Su Fong, this is all you need to know. The 100 Virtues' ancient devil's bloody state suddenly became somewhat ethereal. At this time, Su Fong finally understood most of the situation regarding the 100 Virtues' ancient devil Tao temple and the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's ruins. He just didn't expect that the legendary Devil Emperor who lived in the past would have such a rough life. This was something no one could have imagined. His previous impression of the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor was that he killed people like scything flax. He was an inhumane devil who killed without blinking an eye. But who would have thought that the Devil Emperor of a generation was actually such an ambitious and ruthless person? The 100 Virtues' ancient devil continued. Although the Devil Lord established the supreme immortal world, he was unable to create the reincarnation cycle that he dreamed of. If the heavens want people to die, they have no chance of living. Although the Devil Lord is no longer here, his will remains. He hopes that the person who inherits his legacy will one day be able to fulfill his dream and establish an eternal kingdom. Young man, I've said most of what I need to say. Once you enter the Devil Lord's Tao Temple, you will understand just how powerful the Devil Lord was. My responsibility is to protect the Tao Temple before the fated person arrives. But now that you have appeared, my mission is slowly fading away with time. Su Fong's eyes brightened. Since Senior still has flesh, your Yuan spirit can still live. No, when I first established this Tao temple, I fused my life essence with it. Furthermore, I had already died at that time. You can see that this blood is just a tiny bit of my life essence. It is used to maintain the seal on my Yuan spirit. Furthermore, from the moment the Devil Lord died, I no longer had any thoughts of living. This is fate. Some people can only do one thing in their entire life. In this life, I will follow the Devil Lord, and even if I die, I will follow the Devil Lord. When the Devil Lord dies, I will also follow him. This, a shock as vast as an ancient mountain, assaulted Su Fong's body and mind. His heart was filled with 100 Virtues' ancient devil's words. People can only do one thing in their entire life, just to live and follow the Devil Lord. When the Devil Lord dies, he will also be buried with him. What kind of courage was this? What kind of determination was this? Who in the world could be this loyal? Who would have the courage to cut off their own path for a person, for a thought? Perhaps this was what a warrior meant by dying for his bosom friend. Courage. I thought that I was more hardworking than anyone else. I have endless courage. But compared to 100 Virtues' ancient devil, what am I? I'm just a lowly existence. Even Mu Shuo, Nangong Xiao, and Huangfu Yunhai were powerless against them. What kind of courage do I have? At this moment, Su Fong was touched. It was like a stone that caused huge waves in his heart. When he saw 100 Virtues' ancient devil again, he was filled with respect. What kind of person was this? To have such courage, to only have one thing in his entire life. Since my mission is complete, I should really disappear. I can live. With my abilities, I can continue to live. I can establish a huge Devil Dao faction in the immortal world. But what's the point of that? Young man, you have to work harder. Although you have cultivated the yellow spring blood sea, you have only just started. You can't even compare to this old man. Moreover, if you want to obtain the Devil Lord's inheritance, this is just the beginning. If you want to enter the Devil Lord's dojo, you will be blocked by the will left behind by the Devil Lord when he was alive. You need to obtain the permission of the Devil Lord before you can enter. Based on your current cultivation of a yellow spring blood sea, it is far from enough. You need to first integrate with my dojo and obtain my will imprint. Then you can enter the Devil Lord's dojo. Where is the Devil Lord's dojo? Wait until you fuse with the 1,000 Flowing Emissary dojo. Then wait until your yellow springs blood sea becomes even stronger. You will naturally sense the Devil Lord's dojo in this wasteland. Farewell, young man. I hope that you, who we have waited for countless years, can continue the glory of the Devil Lord. 100 Virtues' ancient devil's body suddenly burst into flames. He opened his mouth and spat out, while planting. So, his blood-water state suddenly turned into a mysterious flame that was sucked into Su Fang's yellow springs blood sea. Then, the world calmed down. It was as if 100 Virtues' ancient devil didn't exist. As for the end, a blood-red door appeared. Chapter 1037. The appearance of this blood-colored door seemed to indicate the disappearance of Bai Shan ancient demon's consciousness. He was no longer in the human world. An ancient demon of a generation, a giant who had created a legend with the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor in the past, followed the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor loyally and persistently. But in the depths of Su Fang's mind, the Tao runes of destiny sensed that Bai Shan ancient demon's consciousness existed in a certain space in the sea of magic power. Law suddenly sighed in the depths. It seems that the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor was not only a peerless genius, but also a peerless figure. This kind of person is the true hero. As a person, to be able to obtain eternal life, this person must be extraordinary. And the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor had countless people accompanying him throughout his life. He was even more a wise and brave person. Law rarely praised a person, but he praised the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor time and time again. In Su Fang's mind, a scene that made him tremble appeared. I remember Bai Shan ancient demon said that the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor was killed by the wrath of heaven. Does the wrath of heaven really exist? It's better to believe in the wrath of heaven. A person's life in the world is so short. Either be mediocre for life, or be glorious like the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Although it's short, it will always be the most glorious. Yes. At this moment, Su Fang's mood was very heavy and very complicated. His life was originally a pool of peace, but he met Law, and today he met Bai Shan ancient demon from the ancient times. Hearing about their past made him feel a strong impact on his body and mind. Slowly controlling the Yellow Springs blood sea with a slight momentum, Su Fang crossed the blood-colored sea of demonic qi with great difficulty. When he left the blood-colored entrance, he felt a sense of weightlessness. The blood-colored light flashed, and in front of him was no longer a terrifying blood-colored world, but an ancient, silent, and still demonic qi space. This was a sealed demonic qi cave, estimated to be 3 miles of space. Su Fang first changed from a state of the Yellow Springs blood sea to a human body. Turning around, he saw a shocking seal behind him. Inside the seal was probably the blood-colored sea of demonic qi. As for the outside, it should be the demonic stone door. When he looked into the depths of the cave, he suddenly saw 3 extremely familiar winged serpents. He stumbled back a few steps, but discovered that it wasn't a living winged serpent, but a statue. It was erected in a triangular shape around the cave, and was about 5 feet tall. It looked fierce and lifelike, but upon closer inspection, he discovered that it didn't have any signs of life. Law suddenly reminded, "Be careful. That snake statue is a protective formation." This made Su Fang even more curious. He walked forward and saw a large number of treasure chests in the center of the 3-headed winged serpent. Some of the treasure chests exuded an indescribable spiritual chi, while most of the treasure chests were demonic chi. It appeared to be a triangular altar, with the three-headed winged serpent guarding the triangular area. Su Fong used his paragon sensory ability and discovered that there was a weak but mysterious array between the three winged serpents. Once it was activated, the three-headed winged serpent would fiercely attack. With Ancient Devil by Shan's height, just how terrifying would the three-headed winged serpent statue be? Law promptly said, "Don't worry. The power of the three-headed winged serpent formation is truly powerful. Its quality has surpassed that of a high-grade Dao item, reaching the level of a top-grade Dao item. This three-headed serpent statue is a good treasure, and it was refined from a real winged serpent. It's not like the two icy statues you obtained before. Then I'll fuse with it. I estimate that this three-headed winged serpent formation is a top-grade Dao item that Ancient Devil by Shan used as a precaution against experts who infiltrated the Dao Rite. That's a legendary, peerless treasure. Even an expert like the Elder can only use a high-grade Dao item. Entering the formation is very simple. You've already obtained Ancient Devil by Shan's will imprint. You just need to release your own aura to enter. It really was simple. Su Fong felt that he had seen too little. He racked his brains, but the essence of the matter was very simple. He immediately activated his true chi. Most of it was devil chi, especially the ancient Devil Gold Core's aura. He also released his Yuan spirit and magic power. He was still somewhat worried. He took small steps and began to climb the steps of the triangular altar. Besides his heartbeat and breathing, there was only the sound of footsteps. This place had been sealed for countless years. Su Fong was the first cultivator to come here and break the seal. When he finally reached the edge, there were terrifying winged serpent statues on both sides. He sucked in a breath of cold air and fearfully stepped forward. Whoosh! He stepped in and landed on the ground. The winged serpent didn't move at all. However, his footsteps created a special devil light, as if he had triggered some kind of restriction. Su Fong relaxed and looked at the three-headed winged serpent. He wanted to collect them, but he decided against it. He would first collect the treasures left behind by Ancient Devil by Shan. There were more than 1,000 treasure chests. They were densely packed and neatly piled up. He activated his devil chi and opened all the treasure chests in an instant. Bursts of spiritual light, bursts of devilish chi, and immortal clouds were released from the treasure chests, giving color to the gloomy and cold devilish cavern. Pills, they're all high grade, top grade, and even peerless grade. Some are immortal essence pills, some are transformation pills, and most are devil Dao pills. Dao items. Even the worst Dao items are high grade. Most of them are high grade, and there are even some top grade Dao items. Incredible, incredible. There are so many spiritual items. This immortal fruit is probably over 100,000 years old. This spiritual flower contains an astonishing amount of demonic energy. It is probably over 10,000 years old as well. Even a single petal contains a power that is 1,000 times stronger than me. It also contains a supreme amount of demonic energy. There are also so many immortal stones and gems. They're all high-grade spirit veins. There are actually more than a dozen spirit veins. At this moment, all the lids of the treasure chests had been opened. Su Fong looked down and was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. His eyes were almost the size of walnuts. Magic treasures, spirit items, immortal stones, and immortal stones were all there. Moreover, there were a dozen immortal stone spirit veins. Each of them was over half a mile long. This was too shocking. Not to mention a dozen or so. Even a single meridian would be the best treasure for cultivation and the establishment of a dojo, no matter where it was. Ancient Devil by Shan is too rich. Back then, I met the 6 lords of fertility in the minor world. That miser couldn't have collected so many treasures in his lifetime. Su Fong grinned as he rubbed his palms together. Then, among the treasures, he saw a very special devil artifact. It was indeed a devil artifact, not an ordinary treasure. Its quality was very strong and terrifying. Su Fong could sense that it was of the same quality as the three-headed winged serpent. In that case, this Dao artifact should be a Dao artifact that surpassed the high grade and reached the supreme grade. When he arrived at the treasure box where the Dao treasure was located, the aura of the Dharma treasure was incomparable. Su Fong had yet to see what the Dharma treasure looked like. Behind the treasure box, there were two more treasure boxes releasing the aura of Dharma treasures. They had reached the level of a top-grade Dao treasure. 3 top-grade Dao items. This was beyond Su Fong's expectations. Taking a closer look, the first treasure box contained a demonic blade. It wasn't a sword, nor was it a saber. Instead, it looked like a saber or a sword. It was about a foot long, and the tip of the demonic blade was extremely sharp, just like the sharp needle of a poisonous bee. Beside the treasure chest, there were 3 devil words that contained Ancient Devil by Shan's Devil Chi, Immortal Piercing Blade. Its shape didn't seem outstanding, but Su Fong felt that the Immortal Piercing Blade was overbearing and murderous. When it was used, the Immortal Piercing Blade was used to kill. It was as if it wouldn't come out unless it killed someone. It should be a treasure that Ancient Devil by Shan had used before. When he arrived at the second and third treasure chests, he saw a black flying sword on the left. When he looked at the right, Su Fong couldn't stop smiling. He was surprised and happy. It was a true demon blood plate. Black flying swords. There were too many flying swords everywhere in the great world. Everyone had a few. They were essential for immortals and cultivators. Su Fong didn't care about the black flying sword. But when he saw the true demon blood plate in the treasure chest on the right, Su Fong couldn't help it. There were also engravings beside the treasure chest. It should have been left behind by Ancient Devil by Shan himself. Heavenly Demon Blood Plate. It wasn't the true demon blood plate, but the heavenly demon blood plate. He summoned the true demon blood plate in his body and compared it carefully. The two were generally the same, but the surface engravings and colors were different. Their auras were even more different. The difference in quality was like heaven and earth. The true demon blood plate was probably at the level of a true demon, but the heavenly demon blood plate was definitely a peerless treasure used by a heavenly demon in a great world. It was also an essence soul treasure. What a treasure! The true demon blood plate has always been very useful. Later, I gave it to Gui to fuse with. But after coming to the great world, it wasn't very useful. I didn't expect to obtain a heavenly demon blood plate here today. Why when it came to me? The delighted Su Fong touched the heavenly demon blood plate in the treasure chest. Then, he looked at the black flying sword in the treasure chest. There were also engravings: Soul Chasing Devil Sword, Immortal Piercing Blade, Heavenly Demon Blood Plate, Soul Chasing Devil Sword. 3 heaven-defying Dao artifacts that surpassed high grade and reached the peak grade. Let alone one. Even the junior elders and elders would dream of having one. Now that Su Fong had obtained 3 of them, he had become a rich man on the same level as Elder Yu. Not to mention the many resources and treasures around him. 3 heaven-defying peak grade Dao artifacts. They are good treasures. I can't take them out casually. And with my cultivation base, I can't use them. Aside from a heavenly demon blood plate, I can fuse with them. As for the immortal piercing blade and soul-chasing devil sword, I can only use them. Looking at the treasures in the 3 treasure chests, Su Fong couldn't bear to part with them. These 3 treasures should have been used by Ancient Devil by Shan when he was alive. Because of this, Su Fong had fused with the power of the Bai Shan ancient demon. Logically speaking, he could activate 3 magic treasures. However, he could only activate the heavenly devil blood plate slightly. As for the other 2 magic treasures, even a heavenly immortal would not be able to activate them, let alone a cave immortal. However, he had to activate the heavenly demon blood plate. This treasure was an essence soul treasure. As long as the young immortal was strong, he could activate it to deal with the essence soul of a strong enemy and restrain their young immortal. Especially when he encountered a powerful big goblin like Tung Ba in the future, he didn't need to activate the primordial chaos sacred realm. He could directly use the heavenly demon blood plate to suppress and restrain the big goblin. Killing a big goblin like Tung Ba wouldn't be a big problem. The space of the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda is amazing, but the quality is not high enough to suppress the aura of these high-grade treasures. Fortunately, I still have the void dust cauldron. He separated his hands, and the void dust cauldron appeared. A Xian Guang was released from the cauldron transformation and sucked in the treasure chest containing the immortal piercing blade, followed by the soul-chasing devil sword and the heavenly demon bloodplate. After obtaining these 3 treasures, Su Fang went to collect more than a dozen spirit veins. The volume of the spirit veins was very vast. Fortunately, the cauldron transformation space was unlimited and could be sucked in. Spirit veins. A single spirit vein was enough for Su Fang to establish his Dao field and cultivate for countless years. These spirit veins were all high-grade and top-grade existences. If he took them to the Star Palace, they would be peerless treasures. Boom, boom. After collecting the spirit veins, he was about to collect the various high-grade immortal pills that he cared about. At this moment, a dull impact came from the ceiling devil array at the entrance. Su Fang looked over in surprise. This sound was not normal, it was too abnormal. Chapter 1038. This commotion is unusual. After thinking for a while, he flew out of the triangular spell, altar guarded by the 3-winged serpent statues. When he arrived in front of the array, he released his Great Perfection stage ability. His Great Perfection stage ability slowly seeped into the demonic array. In an instant, he felt a huge vibration that kept extending into the depths of the demonic array. Fortunately, the demonic array was not affected much. Then, he heard a familiar voice. This voice came from Heaven Demon Mountain. Sovereign Ba Mo, what do you think of this demonic stone door? My full-strength palm strike was unable to move it at all. If this is not the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's dojo, how could there be such a strong seal? Su Fang felt a chill down his spine. He suddenly realized that the vibration just now was not natural. It was an expert from Heaven Demon Mountain attacking the demonic stone door from the outside. And it was Sovereign Ba Mo Blood's sovereign size voice also gradually came. If Sovereign Ba Mo is unable to move it with his strength, then only Grand Elder can do it. Grand Elder. Heaven Demon Mountain actually sent a Grand Elder. When? Could it be that a large number of experts came to Heaven Demon Mountain while he was in the 100 Virtues Ancient Demon Dojo? There was even a Grand Elder? The young Elder was already unparalleled, and there was still a Grand Elder. Next, the mysterious Grand Elder spoke. His hoarse voice was filled with penetrating power. This is most likely the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's dojo. Even if I were to attack, I would not be able to move it. It is impossible for one person to do it. Everyone think of something. Since we have found the dojo, all of this belongs to Heaven Demon Mountain, but there are already major factions that have noticed our movements, especially the Huyen Shinrikyo, who have a death grudge with us. I don't think they will let this go. That is why we do not have much time. Everyone think of something. After the Grand Elder finished speaking, Su Fang could no longer hear another voice. This is the 100 Virtues Ancient Demon Dojo. You think you can move it? Su Fang suddenly turned around and left with a sneer. He returned to the triangular spell altar and began to collect the elixirs. The elixirs were all high-grade and above. Furthermore, they were all ancient elixirs. Each ancient elixir was extremely precious. Now that there were countless ancient elixirs, how many of them were there? Even if there were hundreds of millions of them, it was still impossible to calculate. A peerless devil of a generation naturally had many treasures. What celestial treasure, mysterious realm? What Huang Fu Fei? I've said before that I won't be like a dog, kneeling in front of you and begging you to give me strength. My cultivation is something that I fought for with my own hands. I have courage and faith. I joined the constellation of 9 heavens only for the great fertility violet chi. He sucked the bottles filled with pills into the void dust cauldron. For a moment, he thought that he was a Tao Tai, constantly devouring pills. Only after a while did he manage to store the medicinal pills into the crucible transformation furnace, followed by a variety of magical weapons. There were far too many magical treasures, the majority of which were devil items. A third of the righteous path's treasures were high-grade. There were roughly 5,000 of them. That was enough for a major power, a Taoist rite, and thousands of disciples to have high-grade magical treasures. Even in a Huangfu dojo, there were probably thousands of people who owned a superior-grade Dharma treasure, and they were only ordinary Dharma treasures. As for magical treasures, he could only think of the immortal piercing blade, the heavenly devil blood plate, and the soul-chasing devil sword. As for the other magical treasures, he had no use for them. He could only give them to slaves and junior commanders. He also had a lot of magical treasures, both strong and weak. However, he had no use for many of the powerful magical treasures. He could only choose some that he could use. After the magical treasures were absorbed, it was time for a variety of spiritual objects. There were many kinds of spiritual objects, especially a few gems that were about to form a consciousness and turn into a spiritual body. These were the peerless existences among the earth attribute gems. Master, Wooling Goblin suddenly came. Su Fong took out a piece of milky white gemstone whose spiritual qi had almost melted into a liquid. This gemstone contains a supreme, earth-attributed spiritual power. It can almost transform into a spiritual body. Once you swallow it, your strength would immediately reach the same height as mine. You can even surpass most of the junior commanders and enter the crucible transformation realm to cultivate. Many thanks, Master. This strange stone can almost turn into a spiritual monster. Many thanks, Master. Wooling Goblin estimated that in its lifetime, it would never have thought that it would get such a tailor-made treasure. After accepting it, it immediately went to the crucible transformation world. The remaining 3 gems had the same quality and power. They were all existences that were about to turn into spiritual monsters. Su Fong also needed to cultivate a supreme, earth-attribute spiritual technique. Therefore, he placed the 3 gems into the depths of the Xianhuang 6-path pagoda's top-level array formation. From then on, the Xianhuang 6-path pagoda could fuse with the gems at any time, allowing its earth-attribute spiritual might to reach the peak. When the 6-paths pagoda's ability improved, Su Fong's ability improved as well. Moreover, Su Fong placed a lot of gems and strange stones into the Xianhuang 6-paths pagoda's array formation. They floated there, releasing a natural aura that slowly fused with the 6-paths pagoda. If Su Fong needed them, he could directly absorb them from the 6-paths pagoda. There are also a lot of wood attribute treasures, spiritual flowers, spiritual fruits, and the like. Su Fong was naturally concerned about some of the spiritual objects. He mainly focused on the 6 major spiritual objects: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. Previously, there were 4 earth attribute gems. Now, there were dozens of wood attribute treasures. Su Fong also absorbed all of them into his body. There were too many spiritual objects. Su Fong did not have the energy to choose. There were also some fire attribute spiritual objects, all of which were ancient treasures. They were just right for him to cultivate the illusory fire cloud and the pure yang true fire. Spiritual objects, magical treasures, pills, gems, and immortal stones were all collected. What was left were some special treasures. At the back of the altar, there were several treasure boxes. When he came to the front of the treasure boxes, he found some terrifying poisonous things inside. For example, poisonous insects, some highly toxic substances. There were also pill recipes and an ancient book on refining poison. It turned out to be a book of by Shan Ancient Devil's lifetime of refining poison. There were dozens of pill recipes recorded inside, but only a few of them were truly extraordinary. In addition to the poisonous things, there was also a black talisman, activation talisman. It was easy to enter the inner world. It turned out to be by Shan Ancient Devil's records of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea's cultivation. In addition to the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, there was also a real Heavenly Demon book. This Heavenly Demon book was not simple. The Heavenly Demon book that Su Fong obtained in the past was considered an entry-level technique, but this Heavenly Demon book was the true Heavenly Demon cultivation technique. Inside, there was a divine ability similar to the Heavenly Demon disintegration seal. The only difference was that the cultivation method was different, making it unfathomable. This heavenly demon book could allow him to continue cultivating the Devil Tao's cultivation method. Ogre confinement. The last part of the talisman was about the cultivation method of the ogre demons. Ogre demons. That thing was really terrifying, causing righteous Tao cultivators to tremble in fear. Because Gue had the ability of the ogre demons, in addition to suppressing a powerful ogre demon, Su Fong just happened to need this ogre confinement technique. When he carefully put away the treasure boxes, there was an engraved mural under the treasure boxes. There was a cloud of immortal clouds on it. There were 3 people floating on the cloud. The one on the right was by Shan Ancient Devil. The one on the left was probably the other envoy, Yin Qianlu. He was a black-robed man in his 40s. As for the center, Su Fong actually saw a white-robed man who was about the same age as him, maybe even a little younger. He was probably in his teens. He was riding on the immortal cloud. His white robe fused with the immortal cloud. His long hair slowly floated in the air. Even if it was just an engraving, his exquisite facial features made Su Fong sigh that there was such a handsome man in the world. Without a doubt, this white-robed man was the legendary emperor of a generation, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Law suddenly said, "In this world, the stronger an expert is, the younger they are. From their age, you can tell whether a cultivator is an expert or not. This Yellow Springs Devil Emperor is really extraordinary. I didn't expect there to be such a person in the great immortal world. It's a pity I didn't get to meet him back then. Such a person is qualified to stand in front of me. Yellow Springs Great Emperor, Yellow Springs Devil Emperor." Su Fong didn't seem to hear Law's words clearly, because at this moment, his attention was focused on the engraving of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Although it was just an ordinary engraving, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's divine might and expression were lifelike. Bai Shan Ancient Devil and Yin Qianliu's eyes were also filled with respect. The 2 envoys were following the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Boom! His body and mind were focused on the engraving that would never change. The demonic formation behind, as well as the rocks fused with the underground wasteland, actually shook violently. Then, some bloody and flame-colored tear marks appeared, and in an instant, they covered the demonic formation and the surrounding rocks. Su Fong suddenly turned around. When he saw this scene, he felt that he could no longer stand firm. The demon's den fell into an earthquake. He stabilized his body and looked at the flame tear marks. He shouted, "Oh no! How could the experts of the demonic mountain break the sealing demonic formation left behind by Shan Ancient Devil? Don't underestimate the people of the world." Law's voice came faintly. "The demonic mountain is not simple. To be able to establish a dojo in the great world, it means that at the root, they are more or less related to the demon world, the demon race, the ancient forces, and so on. There is no doubt about this. You have to leave, because more than a dozen powerful figures like the Ba Demon Monarch have already killed their way in with a powerful old man." A powerful old man? That's one of the great elders of the demonic mountain. Probably, although this great elder is not as powerful as by Shan Ancient Devil, he can combine the forces of more than a dozen elders to display the power of a peerless formation. Their overall strength can shake this dojo. Even if Bai Shan Ancient Devil is still alive, it won't be easy to deal with the formation set up by more than a dozen experts. It seems that the demonic mountain has used its true strength. This is not something you can contend against. This, Law's words caused Su Fong to completely fall into panic. He could only subconsciously retreat. Crack! The fiery, demonic chi tear marks were about to tear again. Boom! A demonic chi light fiercely shook the torn rocks and the fragments of the formation away. Then, demon-robed cultivators, with the divine power to shatter rocks, flew in when the demonic formation was about to collapse. Su Fong saw that cracks had also appeared around the demon's den. Moreover, it was shaking. He felt that the demon's den was about to collapse. It's that demonic chi brat. More than a dozen experts were actually as strong as the young elder. Among them, Blood Monarch Sai was accompanied by an elder. He flew side by side with Monarch Baimo. His sharp eyes immediately locked onto Su Fong. The other elders also locked onto Su Fong. It's over. Su Fong's body and mind stiffened at this moment. His feet also seemed to be glued to the ground, unable to move. Swish, swish. Just as they were about to reach the spell altar, the three-winged serpents around them suddenly opened their mouths and let out crunching sounds as if they were about to eat someone. Moreover, with a toot-toot-toot-toot sound, the three-winged serpents suddenly came to life. At this moment, when Su Fong saw the three-winged snakes move, he knew that the experts of the demonic mountain had activated the formation and caused the snakes to come to life. Unfortunately, the three treasures were gone. However, before Su Fong could react, a black Xianguang came to life with the three-winged snakes and suddenly rolled up from the spell altar. With Su Fong as the center, it was sucked into the cracks that appeared on the spell altar. They disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1039. Thud, thud, thud. As Su Fong saw the three-headed winged serpent's strange movements and the altar inexplicably changed and collapsed, the black-winged serpent instantly unfolded its astonishing snake body and bit the auras of the dozen or so experts. The dozen or so experts of Demonic Mountain could only retreat. The array and demonic aura they controlled could only shatter under the three-headed serpent's attack. The Grand Elder of Demonic Mountain waved his arm. These are the guardian puppets of the training hall. Be careful. Ancient demonic creatures are bound to be ferocious. Set up the array. Swish, swish, swish. Every demonic mountain powerhouse with the strength of an elder struck out complex demonic patterns and indescribable demonic aura. A mass of demonic aura that covered and collapsed condensed in front of everyone like a huge demonic rock that collided with the three-headed serpent. The serpent was just a puppet. It kept attacking, shattering the demonic aura's power at the edge, or biting a big hole in the demonic aura. The powerhouses of Demonic Mountain were all shocked that the three-headed serpent had such strength. However, the demonic aura array they released also turned into a large number of skeletal demonic hands that grabbed the serpent, causing sparks to continuously appear on its body. The demonic aura still seemed to have an absolute advantage. After several attacks, cracks appeared on the three-headed serpent's body. Not only was the demonic aura suppressed, but the puppet was also no match for the array formed by the dozen or so peerless experts. Another strange explosion was heard. The three-headed serpent actually intertwined itself with each other and turned into a three-headed winged serpent. The three-headed serpent became even more ferocious and stronger. It bit the demonic aura, which was more than 1 zhang long, into pieces. The demonic aura was then forcefully blocked. The Grand Elder of Demonic Mountain led Sovereign Ba Mo, Blood Sovereign Sai, and the other powerhouses to increase their magic power and add more magic power and demonic aura to the demonic aura. Huge skeletal hands grabbed out from the demonic aura and slapped the three-headed serpent again and again. No matter how ferocious the three-headed serpent was, it was still smashed into pieces. Even its teeth were broken. Boom! After a while, the demonic aura crushed the three-headed serpent, and the serpent's body instantly shattered. It finally collapsed. Blood Sovereign Sai's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Looking at the various experts around him, he said, "What a powerful guardian puppet. With over 10 of us working together, our power is comparable to a first-rate power. Only after reaching such a high level would we be able to destroy Serpent Wing." A master nodded. Ancient demonic path masters are naturally extraordinary. Luckily, there were many of us and we were well prepared. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to break apart the guardian puppet in such a short period of time. The Central Grand Elder suddenly ordered, "Don't search every corner, every devil rune, and every remnant formation. I want to know if this Devil Cave Dao Hall is the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's Dao Hall or not. We can't let that Devil Chi brat go. He's actually trying to pull a tooth from the tiger's mouth. Tell the outer disciples to start searching everywhere. Even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground, we have to find that Devil Chi brat." Hua, hua, hua. More than a dozen peerless experts immediately flew in all directions of the Devil's Denver. They began to search the walls and every nook and cranny of the altar. At this moment, he didn't know if he was still in the 100 Virtues ancient Demon Dao grounds or somewhere nearby. Luckily, Ancient Devil by Sean left behind a mysterious formation that allowed me to leave in time. But where's this place? In the gloomy ruins, Su Fong had sunk into the dust. He had been here for half an incense stick's worth of time, and he still hadn't gotten used to it. At first, it was just an ordinary tremor, but very soon, the earth was shaking and the sky was cracking. A large area was collapsing. Huge rocks and grains were constantly falling from above. Su Fong used his great circle ability, but he couldn't see much light. It was still gloomy, and only a few caves seemed to be the way out. Could this still be the abyss's ruins in the depths of Floating Soul Valley? Unable to find a way out, Su Fong could only activate the Wooling Goblin. He hid in the Wooling Goblin's body and began to avoid the collapse. He also drilled into the cracks above. After passing through many layers of ruins, he saw that the entire wasteland was collapsing. It was very shocking. If he didn't leave this place quickly, it would become an absolute collapse. Everything would be filled up, and he would be crushed to death here. If he was really crushed here, even with the Wooling Goblin's cultivation, he would be crushed into dust by the soil of the wasteland. When he finally sensed some spirit chi, he realized that the surroundings were naturally formed and were bottomless karst caves. These caves were emitting all kinds of complicated moisture, and the moisture even contained some poisonous gas. This didn't seem to be Floating Soul Valley. Wait a minute. At this moment, a huge karst cave appeared. The karst cave was very big and bottomless, turning into a karst cave canyon. The karst cave canyon was also trembling, and it was constantly collapsing and shattering. Many materials and rocks fell into the abyss. Suddenly, a dozen demonic figures flew past. Su Fong, who was hiding in the Wooling Goblin's body, wiped his sweat. The aura of the demonic mountain is from the Demonic Mountain's experts. This place is probably near the 100 Virtues ancient Devil Dojo, which should also be Floating Soul Valley. The Demonic Mountain's experts probably killed their way into the 100 Virtues ancient Devil Dojo and fought with the three-headed winged serpent. It was quite tragic. Once they realize that all their treasures are gone, they will definitely look for me in Floating Soul Valley and won't let me go. Tung Ba. When the Demonic Mountain's experts flew past this karst cave, Su Fong asked the Wooling Goblin to quickly crawl to the surface. However, there was still some distance to go. Seeing this karst cave and some poisonous gas, Su Fong felt that this wasn't Floating Soul Valley, so he summoned Tung Ba to take a look. Tung Ba appeared in the Wooling Goblin's stomach and looked at the collapsed karst cave with Su Fong. After a while, he confirmed, "Master, this is indeed not Floating Soul Valley. It's deep behind the Huang Zhe astral realm and closer to the Phoenix Transformation Valley, the geocentric melting realm." Geocentric melting realm. It was a dangerous place that everyone knew about in the Huang Zhe astral realm. It was even more dangerous than the Seven Stars Mountain Range and Floating Soul Valley. The geocentric melting realm was a place under the wasteland. It had a large number of natural karst caves and even karst canyons formed by earthquakes. Due to the poisonous miasma inside, it was a forbidden area for cultivators. The poisonous miasma was terrifyingly poisonous to any cultivator. Unless they had the corresponding medicinal pills to restrain it, no one dared to enter the geocentric melting realm. Tung Ba was very puzzled. "Master, Floating Soul Valley and geocentric melting realm. These two dangerous places are almost separated by the Phoenix Transformation Valley. How do we come here all of a sudden? I can't explain this either, but it should be that the ancient demon dojo has a different spatial pull, causing the entrance to be in different places." This was also a question that Su Fong urgently wanted to know, so he could only ask Law. Law's answer made Su Fong suddenly understand. It turned out that in order to protect the dojo and the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's dojo, Ancient Demon Baishan had set up a complicated passage so that the dojo and the passage were not together. This way, those who went to the dojo would not be able to obtain the inheritance and would not be able to enter the dojo. Furthermore, the two places were separated so that the dojo could be protected even more. To be able to do all this, he had used a supreme spatial array. Su Fang's eyes suddenly focused. Be careful, another group of people is coming. Wooling Goblin immediately hid under a rock. Suddenly, more than 100 cultivators flew over from the trembling karst cave in front of them. As soon as they saw the flaming Taoist robes, they knew that they were disciples from Huiyin Shinrikyo. That old man is the Divine Sun sect elder who snatched the heavenly radiant fire seed back then. They had encountered such a powerful force here. They even saw a familiar face among them. When 100 or so people from Huiyin Shinrikyo flew into the depths of the cave, Wooling Goblin had not gone far when more cultivators suddenly flew into the depths of the karst cave one after another. Su Fang was very puzzled. These people are so strange. Don't they know that the cave below is collapsing? They're just throwing their lives away for nothing. Once again, they encountered many experts from the demonic mountain. Fortunately, they had Wooling Goblin. Otherwise, Su Fang would not have been able to leave the depths of the karst cave alone under the noses of so many experts, until a dazzling light attacked them. They finally followed Wooling Goblin out of the karst cave covered in poisonous miasma and flew into the forest on the surface. As soon as they flew out of Wooling Goblin's mouth, they felt the earth tremble when their feet touched the ground. The tremors in the Earth's core melting realm are most likely caused by the experts of the demonic mountain attacking the ancient demon dojo. This time, it's really snatching food from the tiger's mouth. Those people from the demonic mountain will probably look for me to release demonic aura from now on. Tung Ba and Wooling Goblin disappear at the same time. Next, I have to find the demonic Dao dojo where In Xianlu is. However, Senior Baishan said that in my current state, even if I go to the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor Dojo, I won't be able to enter it. I have to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Seed to a very powerful level. In addition, I now have a lot of resources from Senior Baishan, enough for me to cultivate. Instead of wasting time looking for a dojo, I might as well go back to the constellation of 9 heavens to integrate all kinds of resources, surpass the Cave Immortal, and become a Heaven Immortal. Only then can I return here to find the Devil Emperor Dojo. In just a few breaths, Su Fang's mind went from a chaotic state to a clear one. He had a rough plan of what to do next. Such a big commotion. In the forest, they were preparing to leave and rush back to the constellation of 9 heavens. Suddenly, they heard a gust of wind coming to the forest above them. Someone was talking. Rumor has it that the demonic mountain found what seems to be the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor Dojo in the depths of the Earth's core melting realm. It's most likely true. Otherwise, how could there be such a big commotion in the Earth's core melting realm? Then we still have to go down to the demonic mountain. Won't we get the Devil Emperor's treasure vault? How can we let the demonic mountain have all the benefits? Furthermore, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor is a peerless Devil Emperor. His strength is on par with a great immortal domain's realm lord. How many treasures are there in his treasure vault? That's right. Even if we pick up scraps, we can still pick up treasures. One is enough. We can't afford to offend the demonic mountain. However, I heard that many major factions are also on their way here. Fortunately, we arrived here in time and are one step ahead of them. If we were a little later, the news would have spread completely in the wasteland. Countless formidable martial artists would have rushed here. Would we still have a share then? It's settled then. More than a dozen people discussed quietly above the forest. In less than half an hour, these people entered a huge karst cave on the other side. I didn't expect that the news of the demonic mountain finding the ancient demon dojo would spread in the wasteland in less than 2 hours. From now on, everyone in the Huangze astral realm would probably rush to the Earth's core melting realm. After all, the demonic mountain found the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor Dojo. If they knew it wasn't the Devil Emperor Dojo, there wouldn't be such a big commotion. The cultivators with great perfection perception were all formidable martial artists who had surpassed Heaven Immortals. They kept flying into the surrounding karst caves from all directions. Meanwhile, the ground under their feet was shaking wave after wave. Su Fong reverted to his original appearance. His demonic aura was gone. Even if the demonic mountain's formidable martial artists found him, they wouldn't know that he was the one who took everything from the treasure vault. He immediately flew up into the air and flew at a low altitude inside the forest. At this moment, he was in a hurry to leave the Huang Ze astral realm because he was worried about the demonic mountain. Now that they were in the teeth of the storm, it was too dangerous to stay in the wasteland. Instead of taking such a risk, he might as well return to the constellation of 9 heavens to hide. Just like what he had planned before, he could cultivate in the Star Palace, strengthen himself, and surpass heaven immortals. Gradually, he left the dangerous core area of the Earth's core melting realm. Su Fong, who was determined to leave this place, didn't expect that when he was about to fly into the mountains covered in a large amount of star fog, a movement would come from his body. Chapter 1040. This movement. Why did I suddenly sense it? Did I catch a talisman? Su Fong's face immediately sank. Dai Yi is too coincidental. The desolate swamp astral plane is not small. It's 1,000 times bigger than the constellation of 9 heavens' training grounds, but I keep running into Dai Yi. So is a talisman? A talisman left behind by Dai Yi? He immediately flew towards the mountains covered in star fog. Su Fong's speed suddenly doubled. His realm did not increase, but his speed did. It was obvious that his strength had increased after entering the 100 Virtues ancient devil's training grounds. When he arrived at the depths of the mountains, it was as if this place was isolated from the rest of the world. Su Fong could not breathe due to the large amount of star sand in the fog, unless he used the ethereal quintessence and used his world energy. Why is there a constellation of 9 heavens' vital energy here? After passing through dozens of mountains, Su Fong was still flying through the white fog. However, his perfect circle senses allowed him to sense a familiar aura in the depths of the fog. An incomparably familiar aura. Other than Dai Yi, Lady Yellow Moon, and King Black Python, there was also an aura from the constellation of 9 heavens. When he went deeper, he felt the ground trembling. A complex, destructive aura was constantly rising into the sky. His eyes suddenly lit up. I understand now. Dai Yi and the experts from the constellation of 9 heavens met here. I remember Dai Yi saying that she would kill every disciple from the constellation of 9 heavens she met. Both sides are clearly fighting in this dangerous place. Then after thinking for a moment, he decisively continued forward. The constellation of 9 heavens was not a real training ground for him. Dai Yi, on the other hand, was closer to this big goblin and would benefit from it every time. The star fog in front of him seemed to be torn apart by countless large hands. Sparks and sparks surged from within, stirring up a huge storm with some dust. Su Fong once again felt the divine might of the extreme nebula art. It seemed that Dai Yi was fighting with a peerless expert from the Star Palace. With Dai Yi's strength, she must be a terrifying expert to be able to fight for such a long time. He cautiously changed his appearance and summoned the Wooling Goblin. He began to approach the collapsing mountain range from the ground. After entering the collapsed mountain range, the starry fog above was filled with terrifying waves of energy, one layer after another. A primordial spirit's voice could be heard clearly. "Young man, this is not a place where you can come. This is a conflict between me and Star Palace. Why are you here? Could it be that you want to help Star Palace deal with me?" It was Dai Yi. Su Fong replied, "I'm worried about you. Even if I can't help, I want to see what I can do for you. Although I'm a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens, I feel that it's too much for Star Palace to suppress you for 100,000 years. Naturally, I won't help them deal with you. Do as you wish. But I'm warning you, if you get too close, you might die." Dai Yi coldly shouted and stopped talking. Wooling Goblin whooshed through a large amount of dust. At this moment, the Xin Guang was in chaos and destruction. Amidst the torn star fog, Dai Yi was currently fighting with 2 experts from the constellation of 9 heavens. Both parties were locked in a fierce battle. Clouds surged in the universe. It was either a shocking demonic aura or some demonic poison. The nebula of the extreme nebula art was engulfing and suppressing each other. I've seen that elder before. He was among the higher-ups in the Battle of 10,000 Years. Even Xiao Ranzheng was polite to him. He has a good relationship with Master Luan from the Treasure Mystery Land. This person is an elder, and not the elder from Star Palace who fought with Sovereign Ba Mo for the seed of heavenly flame. No wonder he can fight with Dai Yi here. There's another one. Hiding in the Wuling Goblin's body and surrounded by destructive aura, even an elder wouldn't be able to sense the existence of the Wuling Goblin in such an environment. Su Fong was watching the three of them fight. He was curious about the two experts from Star Palace. He had some memories of one of the elders. He should be a strong elder in Star Palace. As for the other person, he was an elder in his 60s. He wore a starry robe. Although he looked strong, he wasn't an elder, and his strength was shocking. Su Fong sensed from that person for a while. Suddenly, he felt something and his eyes turned black. I can sense the life aura from his body. I can sense that his life aura is similar to Nangong Jun and Nangong Xiu's. You couldn't sense the life aura in the past. Who would have thought that Luo would ask in surprise from the depths? Yes, when I used to use my power, I could only sense in my vision, hearing, and true qi. When I used the art of destiny, I could only sense destiny and true qi. The life aura is the most mysterious existence in the human body. Only by sensing in the body will I know. Seems like you cultivated Acheron Blood Sea and entered the ancient demon training ground. You obtained the ancient demon's willpower, which made your Acheron Blood Sea stronger. It's Acheron Blood Sea. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea is a special physical body cultivation technique. You could transform your body into blood, and your control over your life energy has reached a terrifying level. You've only just begun cultivating this cultivation technique. But now that you've obtained the will of the ancient devil, it's actually helping your Yellow Springs Blood Sea grow stronger. I see. He now had another ability. Su Fong was a little shocked, but he soon stared at the elder in his 60s. This person has the same life aura as Nangong Xiu and Nangong Jun. Then, he must be an expert from the Nangong clan. He came at the right time. Nangong Xiu used her connections in the Star Palace to infiltrate the treasure secret territory and wanted Mu Shuo to kill me. Let's see how arrogant you are, Nangong Xiu. Aren't you just trying to get close to that genius Li Tianqi? Your other backer must be this elder. If I kill him, won't Nangong Xiu lose her backer in the Star Palace? Swaning Chuan, you little brat. Didn't you say that you wanted to avenge those disciples? You wanted to kill me. Haha, with your strength. I don't think you've grown much in the past 100,000 years. Dai Yi's sneer echoed in the sky. Swaning Chuan. Su Fong looked over and saw that it was the powerful elder. He suddenly shouted at Dai Yi, who was releasing a strong demonic aura. 100,000 years ago, I didn't have the ability to deal with you because of Ao Tianzhonghen. Now that 100,000 years have passed, I thought that your character would change after being suppressed. I didn't expect you to still want to kill the disciples of the Star Palace. 100,000 years ago, you were just a core disciple. In front of me, you were so weak that you couldn't even stand up to a gust of wind. You were just a young genius following Ao Tian and Zhonghen. Now, 100,000 years have passed, and you've suddenly become an elder. Don't you think you're slapping your own face in front of me? You old hag that won't die. The elder in his 60s suddenly scolded her. You're just a dog with a mouth that can't spit out anything good. Hearing the elder's impudence, Dai Yi suddenly rolled in the void. It was as though the sky was split open. With a bang, the big goblin aura that she released shattered the nebula released by the elder. In the end, the elder spat out a mouthful of blood and flew away pathetically. Nangong too is right. You're an old hag, an old monster. Even the elder, Swaning Chuan, scolded her furiously. You really haven't grown up. Compared to Ao Tianzhonghen, you'll forever be a small character who's only fit to follow beside him. Don't think that you're in the same position as him and are both elders. The difference in power between the both of you is too big. How can a small character like you become an elder? Is this still the Star Palace that I know? Old hag, what does the Star Palace have to do with you? In this wasteland, You've been killing the disciples of the Star Palace and using them to cultivate and absorb their profound chi. At least thousands of disciples have died in your hands. 100,000 years ago, you were very powerful. However, you've been suppressed for 100,000 years, and you're no longer my match. Today, I'm going to take revenge for the sect and get rid of you, the big goblin. I'm also going to cut off your ill-fated relationship for A.O. Tianzhonghen. Today, I'm going to take revenge for 100,000 years of suppression. Normally, I'm going to kill some small characters in the Star Palace. Today, I'm going to kill an elder like you. Let's see what the Star Palace can do to me. Moreover, the Star Palace's attention is currently on the Demon Emperor's training ground that appeared in the core melting world. This is the best opportunity for me to get rid of you. Old hag, huff huff, huff elder, Sui Ningchuan immediately cultivated the extreme nebula art to the extreme and turned into a burning nebula that was 100 feet in size. This was a remarkable ability that could only be achieved when one cultivated the extreme nebula art to a shocking level. Although Su Fong did not cultivate the extreme nebula art, he understood this martial skill. It was already not easy to cultivate a large amount of nebula and transform genuine qi, yang immortal in breath, into the nebula. However, Sui Ningchuan was able to integrate the fire attribute martial skill into the extreme nebula art and cultivate such a shocking and extraordinary attack. Suddenly, Nangong Tu, who was sent flying to the side and was vomiting blood nonstop, took out a top-grade flying sword viciously while both parties were fighting. The flying sword was also tainted with poison. Following the burning nebula that was suppressing the demonic aura, it suddenly pierced through the nebula and attacked Dai Yi. The demonic aura shook, and a large area was burned and shattered by the burning nebula. Dai Yi, who was listening from the inside, was furious, shameless. 100,000 years ago, there was no such despicable person in the Star Palace. I didn't expect the Star Palace 100,000 years ago to become such despicable people. Sui Ningchuan controlled the Supreme Nebula and was extremely proud. He was as vicious as he was vicious. To deal with a big goblin like you, what's the point of talking about fairness and tactics? How shameless. Even Su Fong couldn't stand it. He snorted and his eyes suddenly lit up as he stared at Nangong Tuesday. He then transmitted his voice to Dai Yi. Senior, you only need to focus on dealing with Sui Ningchuan. Leave Nangong Tu to me. This person is so despicable. With him around, it will be difficult for you to kill Sui Ningchuan. Dai Yi's primordial spirit was surprised. I appreciate your kindness. Even 100 of you wouldn't be his match. You will only be courting death if you kill him. Don't worry. Even if I can't kill Sui Ningchuan, I still have the ability to protect myself and leave. I naturally believe in you. However, these two are the higher-ups of the Star Palace, and they are so despicable. I have made up my mind. Senior, you just have to lure Sui Ningchuan away. I have absolute confidence in killing Nangong Tuesday. I have obtained a type of poison, and I have the confidence to kill him. All right, I didn't expect you to be able to help me today. All right, I will see how capable a cave immortal from the Star Palace is. Do you have the guts to kill the higher-ups of the Star Palace? What higher-ups? I just want to kill a dog and step on an ant. Suddenly, Su Fong made the Wuling Goblin drill into the depths of the dust ruins. After the Wuling Goblin fused with the astonishing Earth Attribute Gemstone from the ancient Demon Dojo, its cultivation and strength were constantly increasing. Its current strength was at least at the middle level of the Cave Immortal Realm, and its speed was 10 times faster than before. Trying to escape, old witch? In the sky, Sui Ningchuan's complacent laughter suddenly resounded from the raging, burning nebula. Then, the burning nebula covered a large area. Old Sui, I will be here soon. Today, we must kill this big goblin. Nangong Tu kept his immortal sword and started to swallow elixirs with a cold smile. He also released his aura and prepared to kill. Chapter 10:41. Nangong Tu was indeed one of the higher-ups. Although he was not an elder, he was probably on the same level as Huangfu Yinhai and Huangfu Duan. Moreover, his strength was naturally not at the heaven immortal realm. He stepped on a flying sword and grabbed a strong poison with his right hand. He poured the poison on the sword and covered the flying sword. Swish! Swish! When the flying sword was covered in poison, Nangong too was about to chase after it. He did not expect that a wave of flying swords would suddenly fly out from below. When he came to a sudden stop and looked down, his face was filled with shock. He quickly spurted out a startling nebula, which turned into a domain-like defense. Chi! Chi! Even so, the nebula defense was very sturdy and powerful. However, the flying swords still entered the nebula and cut it open. However, the speed and attack were not even 1/10 of the previous ones. Naturally, this power was not enough to threaten Nangong. Nangong too was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. When he saw the flying swords cutting the nebula, he was very shocked. This should be a sword spy. A sword spy. How did such a peerless artifact suddenly appear in the desolate land? A sword spy is something that even an elder would not have. Swish! He was thinking about a sword spy. At such a dangerous time, he still dared to be so greedy. As expected, he had tasted the bitterness. Suddenly, a big goblin jumped out from the side. It held a meteor hammer and turned into a muscular middle-aged man. Its attack was as fast as lightning. The meteor hammer struck Nangong two's defensive nebula at lightning speed. Boom! Boom! The nebula defense kept breaking, and Nangong 2 was also pushed back. When he saw the demonic figure in front of him with a pair of scarlet eyes looking at him, he could not help but shiver. So that old witch Dai Yi had already set up such an expert to deal with me. Human, your good days have come to an end. The big goblin holding the meteor hammer was Tong Ba. He attacked with his hammer again, and the nebula defense kept breaking. However, Nangong 2 was a peerless expert. A poisonous flying sword suddenly broke out. Fortunately, Tong Ba already knew about this sinister move and dodged it. He was also very afraid. As expected of an expert, Nangong 2 began to use his extreme nebula art. His nebula was filled with terrifying fist light. Haha, your strength is still far from Dai Yi's. I'd advise you to scram. Do you dare offend my constellation of 9 heavens? Star Palace is powerful, but not as powerful as my master. Isn't your master Dai Yi? I know, she's very powerful, and has been a huge headache for my sect since 100,000 years ago. But if it weren't for Elder Proud Heaven Chonghung, that big goblin would have long since died. Even if she came from a legendary spirit world, my sect isn't afraid of killing her. My master is not her. Oh, Pao Pa Paningong too frowned. While he was puzzled, Tong Ba unleashed another shocking attack. When demonic chi surged out, the meteor hammer in his hand and the tremendous force of his attack unleashed a shocking divine might. The fist radiance in the nebula was like a living beast. It fell and covered the area, turning into an astonishing attack fist radiance nebula. What a shocking divine ability. Gorilla, it's up to you this time. That high-grade demonic pill is your reward. Be obedient in the future, and you will have more good things. Not far away, in the surging nebula and dust, suddenly, a gorilla devil that was almost 10 zhong tall appeared beside Su Fong. After he sneered, the gorilla devil wriggled slowly. The bloody mouth suddenly faced upwards and spat out a shocking amount of gorilla devil's venom. The venom went against the sky, like a huge fountain rising into the sky. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Nangong 2, who was fighting with Tong Ba, didn't let Tong Ba gain the upper hand by using his divine ability. However, it was also difficult for him to deal with Tong Ba in a short period of time. Suddenly, his nebula was blasted apart by a black and red demonic chi. The terrifying blood-red liquid pressed towards the nebula around him and fell from the sky, like a fairy scattering flowers. Poison, what a terrifying poison. The nebula was corroded by the demonic chi and the venom until it emitted white smoke. It was like hot water being poured onto snowflakes, causing the snowflakes to melt and form a huge hole. The Gorb Demon's attack was just that shocking to Nangong Tuesday This is the poison of the gluttonous devils and gluttonous devils. How could there be a devil path expert here? Nangong too was truly in a sorry state. He wasn't afraid of a big goblin, but he was worried about a gorb demon. Moreover, a demon and a demon weren't easy to deal with. He looked at his surroundings and saw that the void was filled with poison ejection. If he had not released the nebula defense, the poison ejection would have devoured him. Boom! The meteor hammer suddenly flew out of his hand and landed heavily on Nangong 2's defense. At the same time, some of the poison landed on his body, corroding holes in his star robe. Even his flesh fetus divine armor was corroded. Damn it! Just you wait. Nangong 2 had actually fled. What a cunning and difficult person to deal with. After being infected by the poison, he immediately activated the flying sword and pushed the extreme nebula art to the extreme. He created a nebula passage with a rotating nebula and activated the power of the flying sword to protect him from the nebula passage. The nebula passage blocked the corrosion of the poison ejection. This was the advantage of a human cultivator's divine ability. Su Fang's horizons were also broadened. You can't escape. In front of the nebula passage, a figure floated in the air and appeared 100 meters in front of Nangong 2's day. Nangong 2 looked and saw that it was an unfamiliar young man who was slightly releasing devil chi. At first, he was shocked, but after sizing him up, he said disdainfully, "A grotto immortal 8 Dao realm devil, Dao, cultivator dares to block my path? Ha! I'll just kill you and bring you back with me. Don't think that you can deal with me, just because you can control a powerful gorb demon. Nangong 2, you're dead." Su Fang stood with his hands behind his back, looking like a sovereign. The domineering aura of a realm lord from a minor world was already burning. How was he a grotto immortal? Even if he was still a grotto immortal emperor. Your aura is quite extraordinary. Your glib tongue is even more impressive. Die. Using the extreme nebula art and his flying sword to form a nebula passage, Nangong 2 wasn't afraid of a grotto immortal. He was just worried that there were even more powerful devil Dao experts around him. Suddenly, he slapped out with the poisonous flying sword in his hand. Swish! The flying sword stabbed towards Su Fang. In just a breath, it would pierce his forehead. Clang! But who knew? Su Fang didn't move at all. Instead, he watched as the flying sword arrived in front of him. It was only a black figure that was 10 meters tall. The poisonous flying sword stabbed into the black figure. Such a high-grade Dao item was actually sent flying by the black figure. As for the black figure, it was a ferocious giant that wasn't breathing at all. This was one of the 2 guardian puppets he had obtained at the entrance of the ancient devil Dao rite. At the same time, the Gorb Devil, Tung Ba, and a guardian puppet had formed a situation where Nangong 2 was trapped, and this situation was also the reason why Su Fang was confident that he could deal with a figure that was 1,000 or 10,000 times stronger than him with his cultivation at the Cave Immortal Realm. The flying sword was sent flying. Within the nebula passage, Nangong 2 spat out another mouthful of blood. His face was as pale as paper. The nebula passage around him was also disappearing. The Gorb demon's poison had already seeped into his body. Su Fang, who was protected by the guardian puppet, wasn't even afraid of a high-grade Dao item. This guardian puppet was made by ancient Devil by Shan, so it was extremely sturdy. He murmured with a domineering smile, "Nangong 2, it's fate that you met me. I already hate cultivators with the surname Nangong, but you just had to run into me. You're also one of the higher-ups in the Star Palace. Unfortunately, you were injured by Dai Yi, and now you're trapped by me. Unless an elder comes to save you, you have nowhere to run." Nangong 2 was entangled by the Gorb demon's poison. He grabbed the flying sword and roared, "Demon disciple, don't be too proud of yourself." Boom! Who knew? A massive power of the meteor hammer struck him from his side. It was as fast as lightning, shattering the nebula passage that hadn't dispersed completely. Shurian was blown away again. How dare you be so impudent in front of my master? Tumba licked his lips. His muscles swelled as he looked at the nebula passage that he had shattered. At this moment, he felt a sense of satisfaction from venting his hatred. Chi without the protection of the nebula passage. Nangong too struggled to stabilize his body under the Gorb demon's poison. His skin actually started to corrode and fall off. The Gorb demon's poison was so terrifying. Nangong too's head even started to peel off. It was as if he had walked into boiling water and was about to be scalded to death. Chi! In the next second, he stepped on the poisonous flying sword and sprayed the nebula towards the depths of the Gorb demon's poison. He panicked and didn't know where to go. Whoosh! His motives and thoughts couldn't escape Su Fang's eyes. The guardian puppet leaped into the air and passed through the Gorb demon's poison. It stopped in front of Nangong Tu and slashed down. While Nangong Tu was trying to resist with his flying sword, the guardian puppet's flying sword was sent flying. Furthermore, it actually shattered Nangong Tu's right arm with a huff. Nangong Tu cried out in pain. He sprayed the nebula again and shook the guardian puppet away. He ran for his life like a madman. There was only escape in his eyes. A large part of his skin was peeling off. "Where are you running to?" He flew a few meters away again and was about to fly out of the Gorb demon's poison. However, when Tung Ba flashed over, he released the meteor hammer and struck the defensive nebula that Nangong Tu sprayed out. This time, the meteor hammer completely shattered the nebula. "This great one wants to live. I am not resigned to this." Nangong Tu's physical body was almost shattered. However, he gritted his teeth and opened his eyes wide as if they were about to be torn apart. He still ignored the Gorb demon, Tung Ba, and the guardian puppet and focused on escaping. Chi! Just as he flew out of the Gorb demon's poison, he didn't expect a figure to ride a feather fan and follow him out of the Gorb demon's poison. This figure's hands suddenly turned into a fire cloud. It was like a falcon pouncing on its prey from the sky. With an agile and thunderous shout, it grabbed Nangong Tu's head. The scarlet fire cloud's hands revealed enormous strength and divine power. It turned into a burning power and shook Nangong Tu's entire body from the top of his head. It was as if time had stopped. Chi! Nangong Tu looked to the side in shock. The young man looked calm, but had a domineering gaze. The pair of fire clouds' burning arms seemed to be able to burn everything. Su Fang slowly retracted his left hand. His right hand turned into a fire cloud and grabbed Nangong Tu's head tightly. He smiled. "I didn't expect my arms to have such a fire attribute superpower when I just merged with the heavenly light flame seed." The first person I killed was a peerless expert from the Nangong Xiu clan. Nangong Xiu, Xiu'er Yu. Nangong Tu, who was on the verge of death, began to struggle and tremble. "I forgot to tell you, I'm also a disciple of the Star Palace. I am the first disciple to become the Eternal Star Sun. You should know me." "You can't. It can't be you." I heard from Xiu'er that he is the disciple of the Huangfu Training Hall, Huangfu Shaoying. Yes, that Huangfu Shaoying is me. Because I offended Nangong Xiu in the Star Origin Array elimination competition, Nangong Jun, Nangong Xiu actually wanted to kill me in the Star Origin Array. When I entered the Treasure Artifact's secret realm, he even secretly used the power of the Nangong clan to get rid of me. Chapter 1042. Su Fang's voice was like thunder, exploding in front of Nangong Tu, who was struggling. As soon as I entered the Treasure Mystery Land, the high-ranking disciple came looking for trouble. He openly wanted to murder me in the Celestial Pool Peak. This was all done by Nangong Xiu. It seems that he even sought refuge with a special disciple called Li Tianqi. You all think that I, Su Fang, am just an ant. Nangong Tu finally understood Su Fang's origin and motive. He roared unwillingly, You maniac, you will die a horrible death. My Xiu has outstanding talent and is one of the 10 Eternal Star Children. He is 10,000 times more talented than me. When he grows up, he will definitely take revenge for me and let you die without a burial place. Let me die without a burial place? With a faint smile, Su Fang grabbed Nangong Tu, the high-ranking disciple, under his 5 fingers. Let me tell you what will happen to you. I will strip your gold elixir. You have cultivated for close to 100,000 years, right? Sorry, your gold elixir will be mine. With your gold elixir, I will step into the 9th Path Cave Immortal Realm and then become a heaven immortal. As for your corpse, it will become the corpse of the big goblin under my command. This will be your end, followed by Nangong Shios. When I return to the Star Palace after I become powerful, I will eliminate him before he grows up. I will not let him threaten me in the future. You should die 1,000 times. Boom! Hearing that, Nangong Tu's blood rushed to his head, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. He struggled and cursed Su Fong. Then, Su Fong's right arm flashed with a domineering aura. His 5 fingers, which had turned into a burning fire cloud, exerted force, and Nangong Tu's head was instantly crushed like a watermelon. A bloody mist shrouded Su Fong. Goo goo. The headless body started to spurt out blood. Master, Tung Ba flew over hurriedly. Su Fong took out a gold elixir from Nangong Tu's corpse at lightning speed, along with many storage rings and poisonous flying swords. He then threw the corpse to Tung Ba coldly. This time, Tung Ba had performed a meritorious service. The corpse of a peerless expert was his reward. Could this be the luck brought about by cultivating the great pregnant Violet Chi, infusing with the Violet Chi law spirit? Not long ago, he obtained everything from the Baishan ancient demon's treasury. Now that he had just escaped from the core melting world, he did not expect to kill a strong enemy who threatened his life in the Star Palace. He even obtained a golden elixir and many other treasures. With a thought, he absorbed the puppet, the gluttonous demon, and Tung Ba into his body. He hurriedly used Devil Chi to conceal his aura and contacted Dai Yi. When he arrived at the ruins of a flattened mountain, he just happened to see Lady Yellow Moon and King Black Python waiting outside the explosion with injuries. They did not dare to step into the wave of dust in front of them. They used their great perfection ability to see through the wave of dust. Unexpectedly, what they saw was that the burning nebula had turned into a giant nebula sword that was hundreds of feet long. This nebula greatsword had the meteor sword slaying sword and a part of the 7 stars killing sword formation. It was obvious that this was a peerless attack executed by Elder Swaning Chuan. Swaning Chuan was nowhere to be seen. However, the majestic burning nebula that he released was able to suppress an astonishing area of thousands of feet. That area was covered by the burning nebula and extended for several miles. It was the divine might of the extreme nebula art from the constellation of 9 heavens. This move, Su Fong felt a chill in his heart. He was wondering when he would be able to execute such a heaven-defying attack. The extreme nebula art from the constellation of 9 heavens. This was the first time Su Fong saw such a destructive attack. Furthermore, it was in this desolate land, turning several miles of desolate land into ruins. That was how powerful the Elder was. Within the burning nebula, that huge nebula sword was constantly suppressing some kind of shocking power. Suddenly, a pleasant shattering sound came from the huge sword. Following that, Dai Yi coldly mocked, "I see that you have cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years. I feel that you have surpassed Ao Tian and Wu Hen. 100,000 years ago, Ao Tian and Wu Hen was already as strong as you, or even stronger than you. A fool like you dares to compete with the sun and moon?" Sui Ningchuan's angry voice echoed from the nebula. "You old fart. Back then, Ao Tian Chong Hen suppressed you, and you still speak up for him. You two are indeed together. We're both elders, but in terms of strength and character, you're far inferior to Out Yin Chang'an. I Dai Yi like him. He's a genius and the strongest man in my heart. He dares to take responsibility for his actions. So what if he personally sealed me? People like you are nothing more than rats living in the dark." Boom! Suddenly, a demonic aura gushed out from the huge nebula sword that was suppressed by the sword. The huge nebula sword trembled and immediately shattered. A star-robed figure was thrown into the array along with the huge sword. Seeing this, Su Fong heaved a sigh of relief. Swaning Chuan had clearly been defeated. Suddenly, Su Fong's eyes lit up. He left Goddess Huang Yu and the Black Python King behind and flew into the shattered dust wave and a large amount of sword aura. Hua Hua, flying into the dissipating sword aura, Su Fong was shaken by the remaining power. He had no choice but to summon the merciless sword spy and use the 18 flying swords to form a defense. When he flew to the center, he happened to see Dai Yi kick Sui Ningchuan away. He was an elder, but he ended up in such a state. Dai Yi was not injured, but Su Fong could see that she had used up a lot of her vital energy. Su Fong flew over and said, "I'm surprised that you could kill the expert from Star Palace." Although he wasn't as strong as Sui Ningchuan, he wasn't weak either. His abilities were similar to the Black Python King's, or even slightly stronger. Only Lady Huang Yu and the Black Python King could deal with him together. Su Fong nodded. It was all thanks to the gorilla demon and the big goblin that Senior gave me. With their help, I was able to use the merciless sword spy to kill that rascal. Yes, this person was an elder from Star Palace. Today, I will kill him and let Ao Tian Chonghin and Star Palace know. How much hatred did I have for Star Palace in the past 100,000 years? Suddenly, Dai Yi waved her hand and grabbed. The dust wave in front of her rolled over, and there was a person in it. It was Elder Sui Ningchuan. Sui Ningchuan was badly mutilated, and his eyes were filled with anger. Demonic woman, you will die a horrible death. The experts from Star Palace will come and skin you alive. If I kill you now, your corpse will become food for my demon generals. Dai Yi was so angry that she waved her hand and wanted to crush Sui Ningchuan. Senior, I need his gold elixir. Su Fong stared at the terrifying demonic aura. Bang! Dai Yi hit Sui Ningchuan's head in time. With one hit, Sui Ningchuan's divine aperture shattered, his magic power dispersed, and his primordial spirit collapsed. Dai Yi threw the corpse to Su Fong. I've given you the corpse. It's disgusting to look at. Thank you, Senior. I am about to break through the 8th Dao Insight Realm and step into the 9th Dao Insight Realm. The corpse was so good that Su Fong naturally needed it. But what he wanted was the gold elixir. He only had the corpse. Such an elder's corpse naturally had to be shared with the big goblin in the Six Paths Pagoda. However, they were much stronger. Leave this place. This time, we killed hundreds of Star Palace disciples, and even Sui Ningchuan, who happened to pass by, and went to the core melting world to look for Demon Emperor training grounds. I reckon Star Palace will sense it soon and send a large number of experts to kill us. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to. Dai Yi suddenly looked behind her. Lady Huang Yun and King Black Python had arrived. She nodded and released a huge force that turned into a special spiritual energy. It swept everyone away from the dangerous border of the core melting world. Kid, it's time for you to return to Star Palace. A few hours later, the spiritual energy controlling aura suddenly disappeared, and Su Fong, Lady Huang Yun, and King Black Python appeared one after another. Dai Yi pointed at the dangerous area in front of them indifferently. This is the border of Huang Zhe Star World. Deep in front of us is the endless void, which is also the direction of the constellation of 9 heavens. Go back and cultivate properly. In this world, the most important thing about you is your strength. If you don't have strength, no one will look at you wherever you go. Take care of yourself. Su Fong did not expect to reach the border of the desolate land in just a few hours. It saved him a few months of time, and he quickly bowed. Thank you, Senior. Please be careful too. If Star Palace wants to kill me, it won't be that easy. However, from now on, I killed an elder of Sui Ningchuan and became an enemy that Star Palace must eliminate. That's good too. Star Palace and I have been enemies for 100,000 years. 100,000 years later, Dai Yi suddenly condensed a Xianguang and handed it to Su Fong. After you return, go to Ao Tian Peak when you have time. There's a place called Line Valley there. Go to the valley and find the thing that this seal sensed. Take it out and burn on the spot. What is it? You will know once you take it out. It's not important. Also, don't believe in those famous sections. Star Palace is just one of them. Chi, leaving behind a mocking smile, Dai Yi, Lady Yellow Moon, and the Black Python King disappeared with a tremor of demonic aura. Line Valley. Looking at the Xianguang in his hand, he sealed it in his body. After comparing it with the map, he did not fly out of Huang Zhe Astral World. Instead, He flew towards the cold and desolate ruins on the right. There were many mountains in the depths of the ruins. Su Fong found a valley and let two demonic puppet soldiers stand guard around it. He also cast a huge barrier to cover the valley nearby. Tung Ba came to the periphery to hide and let him control the array. Then, tens of thousands of junior commanders appeared in the valley and started cultivating again. Su Fong used the crucible transformation technique to refine the corpses of the two demonic cultivators that Tung Ba had killed previously and Sui Ningchuan's corpse that he had obtained this time in front of a large number of junior commanders. He also merged them with a large number of Yin Yang immortal sky pellets. They turned into Yin Yang immortal sky pellets that contained shocking blood energy and were given to the junior commanders to cultivate. As for him, he had already sat on the altar and took out Nangong Tu's golden core. He immediately used an array to seal the surrounding ruins and began to absorb the power of the golden core. This time, I obtained the golden cores of two experts. It was unexpected. I was planning to use the resources of Bai Shan Ancient Demon to break through. I did not expect to be able to do it with just two golden cores. He began to absorb the golden cores frantically. Even though most of Nangong Tu's golden core power had been consumed before, the remaining power was enough for Su Fong to break through a level without a problem. In the depths of his body, the spiral-shaped heavenly Tao wheel with 18 yang meridians was a miraculous existence called the Yin-Yang Tao wheel. All the yang meridians were using the world fragment as the center to absorb the energy in Su Fong's body. They merged with the world fragment and soon gave birth to the miraculous Yin-Yang world power. The Yin-Yang Tao wheel surpassed the laws of cultivation and used a new method to allow Su Fong's overall strength to enter the 9-Yang 9 transformation state. It could be said that Su Fong had finally embarked on the path of 9-Yang 9 transformations. Not long after, when Nangong Tu's golden core was about to break, a shocking tribulation aura erupted from Su Fong's body. He was about to break through. He hurriedly swallowed the last of the golden core's power into his body. He began to welcome repeated attacks, breakthroughs, and transformations. The tribulation fire burned for hundreds of feet. The 8 Tao marks in his body finally reached 9. The number of 9 represented the perfection of heaven and earth. For Su Fong, he had also stepped into the last realm of the Cave Immortal, the Cave Immortal 9 Tao realm. After taking this step, the peak in front of him was the Cave Immortal realm. As long as he crossed this peak, he would be in another shocking realm, Heaven Immortal realm. The author's words: recommend a book to marry a young lady. The author is very hardworking. It's not easy for him. Everyone, please support him. Chapter 1043. The powerful golden core from Nangong Tuqiang was swallowed by Su Fong's Cave Immortal. Such an expert's golden core only brought Su Fong a breakthrough. One could imagine how profound his physical body was. The tribulation fire enveloped him. It seemed that he was still breaking through and stepping into the Cave Immortal realm, but he had already begun to sense the wasteland with a new realm. First, he sensed that the wasteland was filled with terrifying star sand. This was because the world had energy, but the star sand floated in the energy. This was why it was difficult for cultivators and Big Goblin to survive in the wasteland. Su Fong could see more energy from the star sand, and he could see more void without star sand. After using his great perfection ability, the tribulation fire disappeared. He immediately sensed more than 5 kilometers of the wasteland, almost 20 kilometers. Within this range, he could see most of it clearly and hear the general idea. Especially the Yellow Springs Blood Sea that he was constantly cultivating, he could also sense some life auras moving rhythmically within this range. These life auras were all kinds of demon beasts and even plants. The Yellow Spring Blood Sea was also a physical cultivation technique. It perfectly merged with the perfected physical body, the Black Lotus True Body, and the Blood Transformation True Body, causing the perfected sensing ability to transform. It could be said that Su Fong could grasp all the movements within the 10 kilometers of the wasteland. When he checked the changes in his body, he first saw a brand new and vast physical body. There were 9 Tao marks in his dantian, golden core origin, divine aperture, and layers of flesh membranes. This was the nomological Tao mark of the cave, immortal realm. The golden core origin's heavenly cave was larger, almost taking up 10% of the golden core surface area. He felt that the absorption of energy in his body was several times faster. If Su Fong had a golden core and was not a void, then the focus of every breakthrough in the cave immortal realm would be to cultivate the heavenly cave. The size of the heavenly cave and the degree of integration with the golden core determined the foundation of a cave immortal. The heavenly cave and the golden core were the origin. Naturally, the more extraordinary they were, the more powerful they were. There were naturally other changes after breaking through the cave, immortal realm. The pure yang true fire burned slowly in his meridians, and the illusory fire cloud from the heaven light heavenly fire burned in his yang meridians, and flesh. The meridians in his arms had almost turned into a river of fire. He then looked at the yin-yang Dao wheel in his dantian. The yin-yang Dao wheel is worthy of being called the wheel of the heavenly Dao. It looks like the growth rings of an ancient tree or the navel of a human. So mysterious and vast. Now, apart from the illusory fire cloud and the pure yang primordial fire, there is only the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 18 yang meridians in the depths of his body. The wheel of Dao, that was the wheel of heavenly Dao. According to the mysterious woman's description, it was something that even peerless geniuses could not cultivate. It gave Su Fong the feeling of a world. A world in a spiral state was being born in his body, constantly forming a wonderful world of yang qi. The world fragment in the center of the yin-yang Dao wheel also absorbed energy faster, but it was not too scary. After all, the world fragment was not easy to cultivate. My entire body feels different. Essence, spirit, physical body, golden core, yang meridian, quintessential fire, divine ability, dermic powers, and the dermic treasures. When I reached the peak of the cave immortal realm, I felt like I was standing at the end of the world. But this is far from enough. I originally planned to return to the constellation of 9 heavens and break through to the heavenly immortal realm. Who would have thought that I would unexpectedly obtain 2 golden cores? I might as well stay in the desolate lands and try to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. The desolate swamp astral realm feels like a blessed land for me. The first time, I obtained the void dust cauldron, the feather fan, and other dermic treasures. Now, I obtained the 100 Virtues ancient Devil Dao field and explored the secrets of the Devil Emperor Dao field. I even obtained 2 golden cores to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. When I return to the constellation of 9 heavens as a heavenly immortal, I don't even have to fear Mu Shual. Let's see which one of you can step on my head. To break through to the heavenly immortal realm, I have to absorb Elder Sui Ningchuan's golden core. Most of the golden core's power has been consumed by Dai Yi. The remaining power is enough for me to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. Furthermore, the golden core is filled with quintessential qi and world power. Absorbing the golden core is like a blessing. As he gradually adapted to the cave immortal's 9 Dao realm physical body, Su Fong also began to cultivate various divine ability. At the same time, he was also preparing to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. Fortunately, he now had endless resources. He was 100% confident that he could break through to the heavenly immortal realm. He took out a large number of elixirs for the junior commanders and demon immortals to consume. Even the 12 slaves who cultivated the Heartless Sword Spy also received a lot of elixirs. After cultivating for a while, he summoned the void dust cauldron and entered it. Pa! 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 Not long after sitting cross-legged, his body began to shatter. Soon, his body disappeared and turned into the Yellow Springs Blood Sea that was more than 50 feet wide. A human face quickly condensed from it. I also have to prepare to enter the Yellow Springs Fiend Emperor's Dojo in the future. I have to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea to a certain level in these few years. Goo goo goo. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea's blood water gradually bubbled and burned with blood-colored smoke. Su Fong felt that his entire body was immersed in the blood water, as if he was being burned. However, there was no pain on his face. He only focused. Clearly, cultivating the Yellow Springs Blood Sea was not easy. Blood transformation, true body. Black Lotus, true body. Perfection, physical body. He also used his physical body's ability. More and more blood bubbles appeared. He also controlled the young immortal to use the power of the cauldron transformation to refine a high-grade immortal essence pill. High-grade elixirs. Su Fong had too many. He obtained countless high-grade elixirs from the 100 Virtues ancient demon dojo. The most he obtained were high-grade elixirs. However, this high-grade immortal essence pill was not obtained from the ancient demon dojo. He had collected it before. He did not want to absorb ancient high-grade elixirs. With his current realm, it would be very troublesome to swallow it. It was also not easy to fuse with modern high-grade immortal essence pills. The Cave Immortal Realm and Heavenly Immortal Realm could only swallow middle-grade immortal elixirs. It took less than half an incense stick's worth of time for the cauldron transformation to refine the high-grade immortal elixir. It turned into a very small amount of spiritual liquid and poured on the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. There was a corrosive vibration that was close to being swallowed. In an instant, a burst of white smoke rose. Su Fong comfortably enjoyed absorbing the medicinal power of the high-grade immortal elixir. It brought various abilities to the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. This made it easier for him to use his blood transformation true body, Black Lotus true body, and perfection physical body. Such a high-grade immortal elixir was extremely precious and extravagant for cave immortals. It was also an existence that could not be refined. It could bring amazing medicinal power to cave immortals. As he continued to cultivate, Su Fong still mainly swallowed middle-grade immortal essence pills. High-grade immortal elixirs consumed too much of his control ability. He could easily absorb middle-grade immortal elixirs at any time. After a long time, Su Fong turned into his human form. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea disappeared. After he flew out of the cauldron transformation, he sat cross-legged on the altar. He wanted to take out a spirit vein obtained from the ancient demon dojo to create the altar and break through. However, he felt that it was completely unnecessary. With his current foundation and strength, he could rely on himself to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. Senior Rock King, I'll give you high-grade immortal elixirs. You can surpass humans and withstand the medicinal power of this elixir. One elixir will last you for a while. He suddenly flashed and appeared in front of Green Feather King, Undying Turtle, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, Tongtian Demon Venerable, Wooling Goblin, and more than a dozen other powerful big goblins. He also asked the toad, Lu Xiong, to come over and give these special big goblin 10 high-grade immortal elixirs each. It would probably take a few years to completely digest them. High-grade immortal elixirs for the big goblin to cultivate perhaps only Su Fong was so generous. Green Feather King, Undying Turtle by Ling, Zhu Huang, and other big goblin were constantly getting stronger. Among them, Bai Ling's strength was about the same as Su Fong's. Green Feather King, Undying Turtle, and Zhu Huang's strength were also getting closer. They all had the strength of a heavenly immortal. Now, not only did these big goblin have peerless elixirs, but they also had excellent Dharma treasures and countless resources. They even surpassed the disciples of the major factions in the constellation of Nine Heavens. After chatting with Green Feather King for a while, Su Fong returned to the spell altar and began to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. He took out Sui Ningchuan's golden core. This golden core had lost most of its power, but the overall seal and divine power were still there, especially the power of the world that Sui Ningchuan had cultivated for many years, which had settled in it. In addition, Su Fong also cultivated the 9 heavenly stars minor art, which was equivalent to the power of the golden core. It was very convenient for him to absorb the golden core, just like how he swallowed Nangong Tu's golden core. The divine power of array formations began to explode. Su Fang activated his Dharma power to envelop the golden core. He also slowly released his Dharma power. Buzz. The power of the same origin easily shook the golden core. The golden core shook like a snowball and began to peel off some magical seals. A faint golden light, like power, constantly surged out. Su Fang opened his eyes and absorbed this power into his eyes. When this power entered his body, it caused the vital qi in his body to surge and fuse directly with Su Fang's vital qi. At first, it formed a stream of vital qi, then it continued to absorb the power of the golden core and turned into a long river of vital qi. In the end, it became a surging river. Su Fang's physical body was almost unable to bear it. Swallowing a golden core was a very dangerous thing. The power of the golden core was the essence of vital qi. Once it went out of control in the body, it would be like a bomb exploding in the body, destroying the physical body. Especially the golden core of a giant like Swaning Chuan. It was even more terrifying. Even if Su Fang had a perfect physical body, it would be difficult for him to bear it. Fortunately, he had the same origin power as the golden core. Otherwise, his physical body would have been crushed by the power of the golden core. The long river of vital qi kept surging in his body. Su Fang tried his best to control the power and pour it into the 18 yang meridians of the yin-yang Tao wheel. Now that it met the yang meridians, no matter how strong the power was, it calmed down and was absorbed by the world fragment. The world fragment rotated faster. It seemed that the world fragment needed flow. Su Fang's realm was too low. If he was not an expert, it would be difficult for him to fuse the world fragment with his physical body. Fortunately, at this moment, Su Fang had the power of the golden core and the magical power of the yin-yang Tao wheel. Now, he could truly control the power of the golden core. This is great. I can swallow and improve my vital qi like this. I will soon reach the peak of the 9th Tao, cave, immortal realm, but my physical strength still needs to be improved step by step. I might as well swallow a high-grade immortal pill. The medicinal power can improve my life force and also help me control the power of the golden core. Suddenly, a sharp blade condensed in his right hand. He slashed his chest, and a finger-long bloody wound appeared. Another immortal essence pill appeared in his palm. It was a high-grade immortal essence pill, slightly smaller than a middle-grade immortal essence pill. The higher the grade of the immortal essence pill, the smaller its size. A low-grade immortal essence pill was the size of a longan fruit. A middle-grade immortal essence pill was slightly smaller, and a high-grade immortal essence pill was obviously smaller than a low-grade immortal essence pill. He inserted the immortal essence pill into the wound and activated his great perfection ability. A large number of blood vessels closed the wound. Then his body started to tremble. In addition, the power of the golden core surged into his body. Su Fang really felt like his physical body was a volcano that was about to erupt. This feeling was that the power was too strong. If one's realm was not high enough, they could not control their physical body. It was different from enlightenment. Enlightenment was controlled by an expert at the side, but Su Fang could only control it himself. The pain was self-evident. Fortunately, he had an extraordinary physical body. His dermic powers were also very powerful. In addition, he had the power of the yin-yang Tao wheel. He could barely control the power of the golden core and the immortal essence pill to explode in his body at the same time. He persisted for more than half a year. A shocking aura burned fiercely in his eyes. Chapter 1044. This burning aura was because Su Fang's strength had reached its peak. It also meant that he was about to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. Suddenly, Luo Zai reminded him, "Currently, your golden core still has a portion of its power. Coupled with the power of the high-grade pills, you don't have to rush to break through to the heavenly immortal realm. Instead, enter the void dust cauldron and use the remaining power of your golden core and the power of the pills to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. Otherwise, most of your golden core's power will be wasted." "I understand. It's best if it suits me. Fortunately, Luo came in time. Otherwise, Su Fang would have broken through to the heavenly immortal realm on a whim. Who would want to break through, improve their realm, and transform their strength? For a long time, Su Fang had been a weakling in the great world. He knew the helplessness of the weak. So he urgently wanted to break through to the true immortal realm and cave immortal realm. Now that he was standing at the edge of the heavenly immortal realm, which was his dream, how could he not want to break through? Luo Zai was like a bolt of lightning that struck him. After calming down, he released the void dust cauldron and entered it. When he came to the void of the cauldron, he used the Yellow Springs Blood Sea to turn it into a shocking bloody state of 5 feet. A golden core floated in the bloody water. Moreover, Su Fang didn't need to control the Yellow Springs Blood Sea and the power of his body. The bloody water was bubbling fiercely. When he continued to control the Yellow Springs Blood Sea to absorb the impact of the golden core's power, the bloody water surged even more violently. Su Fang also took out a large number of low-grade and middle-grade immortal pills and threw them directly into the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. With his current realm and ability, directly swallowing the middle-grade immortal pills was no problem. This time, the power of the golden core was already shocking. Su Fang threw in a large number of immortal pills, causing the 5-foot-wide Yellow Springs Blood Sea to start burning. A large number of bloody bubbles appeared, as if the bloody water was boiling. Moreover, under the impact of the double distance, Su Fang didn't have to worry about his body being damaged or being seriously injured. This was because he was already in a state of shattered blood. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea was just that miraculous. No matter how much power you had, how terrifying you were, or how ferocious your destruction was, the Yellow Springs Blood Sea was still the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. This was Luo's original intention. He knew that the underworld Blood Sea could withstand a huge impact. In addition, Su Fang was already at the peak of the 9th Dao realm of the Cave Immortal. With so much more power of the Jindan, he might as well take the opportunity to cultivate the underworld Blood Sea. To Su Fang, the heavenly immortal realm was something he sought after like a flock of bees. It was a dream. It was the confidence of not being bullied when dealing with experts. That was why his head was filled with thoughts of breaking through to the heavenly immortal realm. Instead, he lost such a good opportunity to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. Under the fusion and impact of this tremendous force, the Yellow Springs Blood Sea formed a surging momentum. A large amount of blood water flames burned within the crucible transformation cauldron like a fireball. How about it? You should be able to use some of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea's power now. After a while, Luo spoke again. Su Fang didn't think that much. He really wanted to see if he could use divine abilities or physical abilities by activating the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. He decided to focus on his physical abilities. His physical body was his forte. In an instant, he activated the Black Lotus True Body and sensed the surging true chi and the flow of life aura in the depths of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. He began to release the Black Lotus blood threads that he could faintly sense. He could only sense about a dozen Black Lotus blood threads. What kind of level was this? In his human form, Su Fang could sense countless Black Lotus blood threads in his body and could also control them. However, in the state of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, he could only sense a few dozen blood threads. It was less than a billionth of the human form. This was enough to show how difficult it was to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. Fortunately, even if it was just a little bit of Black Lotus blood thread, he could still slowly control it through his physical abilities, especially the life aura and the power of the yin-yang world. After activating it again and again, it took a long time for the Black Lotus blood threads to seep out of the surging blood water. It was as if silk was growing out of the blood water. Why don't I activate the dragon taming wood? My left arm has been fused with the dragon taming wood since the small world. The power of the wood element has long surpassed other abilities. Suddenly, Su Fang's nervous expression relaxed. After taking a breath, the portion of Black Lotus blood threads disappeared. Su Fang began to activate his power, and the blood water beside the human face slowly turned into a left arm. After the left arm appeared, the 5 fingers spread open, and a shocking amount of life, Xian Guang, gushed out of the palm. After a long time, a bud grew out of the life, Xian Guang, and slowly turned into a foot-long branch and leaf. However, the changes after that were very slow, little by little. If he was in his human form, he would have already grown a large area of branches, leaves, or roots. However, this was still better than controlling the Black Lotus blood threads. My wood element ability has also deteriorated to this extent. The cultivation of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea is far beyond my imagination. I don't know how the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor managed to cultivate such a peerless physical ability. I can only cultivate slowly. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea doesn't have any way to speed up my cultivation. I can only cultivate diligently and absorb more resources to complement my cultivation. Originally, he wanted to activate his magical ability. However, he couldn't perfectly display the advantage of his physical ability. How powerful could his magical ability be? A scene appeared in his mind. The world was a sea of blood, covering a large forces dojo and swallowing it. That was the power of the true creator of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Slowly, the golden core that caused the blood water to surge turned into a grain of light and disappeared into the depths of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. The blood water also calmed down. With a whoosh, Su Fong instantly turned into his human form. The Yellow Springs Blood Sea didn't change too much, but my breakthrough to the Heaven Immortal realm should make it much easier for me to cultivate. With a leap, he disappeared from the Crucible Transformation realm. When he came to the natural array, Su Fong's true Qi turned into Tribulation Qi. It was very shocking. The surrounding junior commanders could feel the terrifying aura of Su Fong's breakthrough. After he formed a seal, his body exploded with an amazing aura, which rushed into the depths of the wasteland. After a while, vast dark clouds appeared in the wasteland star fog. They came from all directions, from the depths of a star fog, or formed by the star fog. The Heaven Immortal Great Tribulation has a total of 9 catastrophes. This doesn't matter. The cultivation of the Heaven Immortal realm is mainly based on the Heavenly Cave. However, under the baptism of the Heavenly Tribulation, the Heavenly Cave will transform again. After entering the Heaven Immortal realm, the cultivator can use the power of the world cultivated in the Heavenly Cave to absorb and control the spiritual Qi in nature and use magical abilities. This is the essence of heaven and earth and the power of the stars. However, according to the ancient books, it's not easy to enter the Heaven Immortal realm to obtain the essence of heaven and earth and the power of the stars. The Heaven Immortal realm is just adapting to the power of the world. Then, with the power of the world, one can start to gradually cultivate the essence of heaven and earth and the power of the stars. This is the supreme mystery that all cultivators have to cultivate when they enter the Immortal Emperor realm. Essence of heaven and earth power of stars, seeing that the tribulation cloud had formed and lifted the star fog in the sky. Su Fong didn't have many waves. He had already broken through the heavenly cave and became a heaven immortal. His mind was filled with the secrets of the Heaven Immortal realm. Snort. The first wave of the heavenly tribulation descended. He took a closer look and found that the aura of the heavenly tribulation was different from the previous calamities. There was an additional feeling of danger in the desolate land, and it gave him an insurmountable strength. This meant that the Heaven Immortal Tribulation was far more powerful than the Heavenly Cave Immortal Tribulation. However, how powerful was this? Wasn't it just the power of a Heaven Immortal? Although he was at the 9th Tao realm of the Cave Immortal realm, his strength had already reached the high level of the Heaven Immortal realm. He didn't need to form seals. With a thought, his true Qi fused with the surrounding spirit Qi, turning in a lightning that was like a rolling sword stream. It rose against the heavens and collided with the first wave of the heavenly tribulation. This kind of sword stream was like a lightning network, and its attack was astonishing. It was too easy for Su Fong to use divine abilities now. Cave Immortals were already experts in the great world, and he had the strength of a Heaven Immortal. He was a true expert. The first wave of the heavenly tribulation was instantly shattered. Then, he immediately welcomed the second wave of the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation also had its own will. It seemed that when it saw that the person transcending the tribulation was so powerful, its attack became even more domineering. However, Su Fong still easily used the sword stream and shattered the second wave of the heavenly tribulation, turning it into countless tribulation fire fragments that descended in the surrounding air. Some of the weaker commanders were so scared that they didn't dare to cultivate anymore. At this time, Su Fong didn't need to form seals, and he could easily use divine abilities to shatter the heavenly tribulation. Such an aura made him the overlord of the small world and the realm lord of the 5 small worlds. The surrounding commanders, slaves, and demon immortals were shocked by Su Fong's casual way of transcending the tribulation. They didn't believe that such a person existed in the world. What it brought to everyone was shock. So what if the following heavenly tribulations were more powerful than the previous one? Under Su Fong's powerful strength, the heavenly tribulations were shattered one by one. When the 9th wave of heavenly tribulation came, it was as if this barren mountain was about to be engulfed by the 9 waves of heavenly tribulation and turned into ruins. Su Fong released a wave of sword chi, which turned into a halo of sword chi that lay horizontally in the air. 222. The 9 waves of heavenly tribulation landed on the sword formation one by one. They were no match for the sword formation and were shattered by the sword formation. To the commanders below, it was like the end of the world. Su Fong was their only hope. If they couldn't shake this great tribulation, then they would also be buried under the heavenly tribulation. Fortunately, in a short while, the sword formation persevered, and the 9 waves of heavenly tribulation disappeared. Whoosh, 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 some spiritual light descended from the heavenly tribulation like snowflakes. This spiritual light instantly caused the surrounding baleful aura and astral power brought by the heavenly tribulation to disappear. It was like warm water entering a world of ice, bringing warmth to the world. This was a kind of baptism power. Su Fong immediately removed the sword formation and let all the commanders absorb this baptism power with him. They could also improve together. At the same time, Su Fong's body burned with tribulation fire. His body began to improve crazily as he was attacked by countless forces. At this moment, he was leaping from the cave immortal realm to the heaven immortal realm. The breakthrough was huge. Fortunately, there was the baptism power. In addition, Su Fong's body was full of true chi. He felt as if his entire body had melted under the impact of the divine power. His bones didn't even exist. When the impact calmed down, Su Fong's body burned with a heaven-defying aura flame. When the flames dissipated, Su Fong seemed to have been reborn. His skin was as white as a baby's, and it looked as if it could be broken by the wind. Even his hair was glowing with spiritual light. He looked at the changes in his body. His meridians had expanded by 10 times, and his body was 10 times deeper than the cave immortal realm. Even his golden core had become stronger. His heavenly grotto had also expanded. His divine aperture had also expanded a little, and his dermic powers had become deeper. As for the young immortal, it was constantly transforming. He could barely sense the existence of the dragon-taming wood in his left arm because it had already fused with his left arm. His blood and water could not be separated. As for the purple cloud Dharma spirit in his right arm, it had fused more with his other meridians. However, he could not sense the divine power of the purple cloud Dharma spirit. He then sensed the primordial chaos sacred realm. This time, he could easily open a passageway to the primordial chaos sacred realm and see the crimson, ancient, and mysterious world inside. However, the primordial chaos sacred realm was still unfathomable. He could sense the space inside and enter it, but did not mean that he could control this peerless Dharma treasure at will.